Given a second chance at life, I didn't go to my boyfriend's mid-autumn festival party. I called my parents in the middle of the night and went to the nearest hospital for an abortion. I ignored the onlookers' accusations and lay down on the operating table with a smile. In my previous life, when I was 7 months pregnant, I was brutally beaten at my door by Fu Heng's friends. The reason was that, at a party, I casually said something that ended up causing his buddy's girlfriend, Shen Ting, to break up with him. After Fu Heng found out, he rushed me to the hospital in a panic and even got 3 red light tickets along the way. He held me, nearly unconscious, yet the words he spoke were meant to comfort his friend. At worst, Wanner just lost the baby, she can rest and recover, and that's that. But Ting Ting is different, she's pregnant now, and with her emotions running high, the fetus is unstable, you can't break up with her. After waking up, I thought I'd finally caught a lifeline, but all Fu Heng gave me was one sentence: apologize to Ting Ting, don't be so petty, he's my buddy, if the baby's gone, we can have another one, try to be more understanding. At 7 months pregnant, I was forced to induce labor, and I screamed until my heart shattered. Weak and drained, I looked down at my flat belly, a surge of grief, fury, and hatred rising in my chest. So I was nothing more than a tool for the 3 of you to use. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day of the mid-autumn party. I looked at the message he'd sent me on my phone for today's party: come a bit earlier and wipe down all the tables and chairs with disinfecting wipes. I clenched my phone so tightly that my nails were almost digging into the screen. In my last life, when I got this message, I was overjoyed. I thought he was just being considerate because I was pregnant and didn't want me getting dirty. I was so moved that my eyes turned red with tears, and I showed up 2 hours early at that filthy KTV private room. Pushing through morning sickness and back pain, I scrubbed every corner until it gleamed. And what did I get in the end? What I got in return was him supporting Shen Ting and looking down on me for being too slow. What I got in return were Shen Ting's endless eye rolls and a brutal beating at the door from his buddy Wang Lichuan. A tear slid down onto the phone screen. Fu Heng, Wang Lichuan, Shen Ting, you owe me. And you owe my child in this life. I'll make you pay it back 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Without the slightest hesitation, I deleted that disgusting message right away. Then, trembling, I called the number pinned at the top. Hello, sweetheart. My mother's gentle voice instantly brought all my hurt feelings to the surface. Mom, I said, my voice choked with tears. The person on the other end of the line was instantly thrown into a panic. Wan, what's wrong? Wan, don't cry. Tell Dad. Who bullied you? Was it that brat Fu Heng? Wanner, Mom's here. Tell me where you are, and we'll come right over. A flurry of anxious questions followed. I want to go home. I forced out a few words with all my strength. Okay, we're going home. Mom and Dad will take Wan home right away. I quickly shoved the property deed into my bag, along with the Rolex I had prepared to give Fu Heng at the mid-autumn party. That was 50,000 yuan. I'd rather throw it away than let Fu Heng get it for free. A hurried knock sounded at the door. Wan. Mom pulled me into her arms at once, her voice trembling with tears. Sweetheart, you scared me half to death. After hearing me pour out my heart, Mom was already in tears. She clutched my hand tightly, trembling all over with rage. Fu Heng, Wang Lichuan, those 2 no-good bastards. How could they treat my daughter like this? The veins on Dad's forehead throbbed violently as he suddenly looked toward the door. I'm going to go kill those 2 beasts right now. I stopped my father just as he was about to head out and told my parents about my plan. My mother looked up sharply. Wan, but your health, Mom, more than my body. I don't want to be trapped in this nightmare for the rest of my life. I held my mom's and Dad's hands, my voice hoarse but unwavering. Mom, Dad, you'll stay with me, right? Mom nodded hard, tears spilling down her face again. Okay, Mom will go with you. Once you leave Fu Heng, that bloodsucker. It's never too late for our Wan to turn back. Dad clenched his fists and then slowly let them go, before finally nodding hard. Let's go, Dad will go with you, too. My mom was right. Fu Heng is nothing but a parasite. In my past life, I must have had lard for brains. In the bitter dead of winter, Fu Heng was already kneeling in the snow, holding up a tattered piece of cardboard. I love you was scrawled crookedly in red paint above. I watched from upstairs, and my heart just melted. I later found out that the heartbreaking snow scene had been Wang Lichuan's and Shen Ting's idea. They were betting on whether I could hold out for 2 hours. Such terrible acting, and yet I believed it. His parents looked me up and down like I was livestock at a market. They kept saying things like, a high education doesn't mean anything, and she doesn't look like the kind of woman who knows how to live a proper life. My parents were furious and wanted to go over there and argue with them, but I was crying my eyes out, snot and tears streaming down my face. He has ideals, he's just had bad luck. Mom, Dad, You can't just look at money. Looking back now, I feel like I could slap myself hard several times. Why was I such a fool back then? His investment went bust, and loan sharks were banging on his door. I gave him every penny I'd saved from staying up late working on projects, along with the savings I'd put away over the years, just to help plug the hole. He even came up with an excuse to ask his parents for some money, and not only did he not say a single word of thanks, he even asked matter-of-factly, "That's all." Then he turned around and used it to buy drinks for that bunch of layabout friends and a new bag for Shinting. Just thinking about it made bile rise in my throat, and a wave of nausea surged up. "Warner," my mother said, patting my back with distress, "they have to puke up every last bite they swallowed." I clenched my fists and panted hard outside the operating room. "See that? That woman over there, 7 months pregnant and here for an induced abortion. How heartless can she be? What a sin. The baby's already fully formed, and she still wants to get rid of it. Who would ever want a woman like that? And today's Mid-Autumn Festival, a time for family reunion. Whoever marries her is cursed with the worst kind of bad luck." The things they said were as nasty as could be. Mom was so furious she was just about to step forward and argue, but I held her back. "Dad, Mom," I said softly, "when a dog barks, do people have to bark back?" "My debt, I'll settle it myself." The operating room lights were blinding me, and the anesthesia was kicking in one by one. Those things flashed through my mind: Fu Hang's hypocritical face, Wang Lichuan's raised fist, Shinting's arrogant smile, and the heartbreaking agony when the baby was gone. And there was Fu Hang's line, "If the child is gone, we can always have another." Fu Hang, Wang Lichuan, Shinting. I closed my eyes, and a tear slipped into my hair. "Your reckoning is coming." 3. By the time Fu Hang arrived at the hospital, panting for breath, I was slowly sipping millet porridge. Bang! The ward door was kicked open with a loud crash. Fu Hang stormed in, seething with anger. Trailing behind them were the provocatively dressed Shinting and Wang Lichuan, who looked as if he were enjoying the show. "Mu Ingwan, are you fucking trying to make my life miserable on purpose? On a family reunion, you actually come to the hospital and pull this crap?" Fu Hang abruptly knocked the bowl out of my hands. Scalding rice broth splashed all over me, burning my skin red. I flinched in pain. I looked at the man in front of me, the one I had once loved so deeply I'd have died for him. With utter unfamiliarity, Shinting pinched her nose, her face full of disgust. "Ugh, what is that smell? It's disgusting." "Brother Hang, Li Chuan, let's get out of here. The longer I stay, the more sick and nauseous I feel." She dry-heaved theatrically twice. Wang Lichuan wrapped an arm around her waist and said in a mocking tone, "Fu Hang, you're really something. You always pick a good day to jinx things. Look how sick you've made Tingting. She's carrying a baby, so she's precious, you know." When Fu Hang heard that, she flew into a rage and pointed at me, hurling insults. "You hear me? You nearly scared Tingting and the baby in her belly. Get up right now and apologize to Tingting." Fu Hang saw that I wasn't moving and immediately reached out to drag me off the hospital bed. "What are you playing dead for? Hurry up." My fingertips clutched the bedsheet so tightly they had gone pale, and I lowered my eyes to suppress the surging hatred inside me. When I looked up again, I still wore the same expression as in my previous life, utterly smitten with him. Hang, let me explain." I tugged at the hem of his shirt and explained in a pitiful, pleading voice, "You were rushing me that day, and when I hurried downstairs, I accidentally tumbled down the stairs, so." I pressed a hand to my flat belly, my voice growing choked with emotion. Fu Hang also noticed at that moment that our child was gone. He thought that if he hadn't pressured me into doing unpaid housekeeping for his beloved Shinting, none of this would have happened to me. His voice softened a little as he held me in his arms and comforted me. "All right, since it's already happened, just take care of yourself and we'll try for another one as soon as possible." I nestled in his arms and nodded obediently, but my eyes were full of hatred. If it had been in my past life, I would have believed he still had me and the child in his heart, but now I had finally seen through it and could only think how utterly foolish I had once been. The man before me made no mention of his own faults, nor did he say how he planned to nurse me back to health. All she cared about was having another child. What else was that if not using a baby to keep me in line? Fortunately, that revolting moment of forced tenderness didn't last long before Shinting kicked up a fuss. 3. "Mu Ingwan, are you fucking trying to start trouble on purpose?" Shinting's shrill voice suddenly tore through the room. "You don't have the ability to keep a man, and now you're lying there pretending to be dead for who, exactly? And you're trying to pin this on me. Have you no shame?" I looked up, only then realizing it. She was wearing a neon pink tight camisole, with a neckline cut shockingly low. The tight leather skirt was so short it barely covered her butt. The heavy gold eye makeup and scarlet lips made my head spin. The cheap perfume mixed with Disinfectant made my stomach clench. My lips had just started to move. Smack. A vicious slap suddenly cracked across my face. My ears rang, and my cheek burned with stinging pain. You little bitch, you dare glare at me. Shanting yanked my hair, forcing my face up. Look at you, all frail and sickly, lying there trying to put on a show for who? Trying to win sympathy. Fu Hang, take a good look. This is the trash you fell for back then. What else can she do besides act pitiful? Her nails dug deep into my scalp, and thin streaks of blood immediately started seeping out. Fu Hang's face went pale. He stepped forward and grabbed Shanting's arm. Ting, don't, she's still in a hospital bed. A hospital bed. Shanting let out a derisive laugh, shaking off his hand. Her bright red fingertip almost jabbed me in the nose. Losing a kid and acting like the world's ended. Who knows if she even lost it? Maybe she's just pulling a stunt to keep you tied down. I've seen women like her plenty of times. With a sudden burst of strength, she yanked me straight out of the hospital bed and slammed me to the floor. My elbow slammed into the cold floor, and a dull pain shot through my entire body. Ting, stop. Fu Hang hurriedly stepped in front of her and said anxiously, this is a hospital. If you've got something to say it properly. Wang Lichuan also wrapped his arms around Shanting from behind. Come on, don't make a scene like this. A crowd had already gathered at the doorway. Fu Hang glanced anxiously toward the door, reaching out as if to help me up, only to pull his hand back in hesitation. Just then, my parents pushed through the crowd and rushed in. The moment my father saw me collapsed on the floor, hair in disarray, he flew into a rage. Get out, all of you, get out. He jabbed a finger at Fu Hang's nose and cursed at him. How dare you bring trash and filth in front of my daughter? Get out right now. Fu Hang was publicly humiliated, and his expression darkened at once. He opened his mouth and said, Uncle, it's not, it's Ting. She, Fu Hang, Shanting shrieked, cutting him off, and grabbed his arm. Why waste words on trash like that? Just look at how broke and pathetic they all are. If you dare side with that slut now, then don't ever expect to see me again. Fu Hang went rigid. He looked at Shanting's vicious, twisted face, then at me, sprawled miserably on the floor. His Adam's apple bobbed. In the end, he lowered his head and edged half a step closer to Shanting. Shanting let out a smug snort, looking down at me with contempt. Putting on an act. Are you? Why stop now? Weren't you pretty good at seducing men? She deliberately nudged the scattered pill box on the floor aside with the tip of her shoe. Fu Hang, let's go. Let that slut put on her little show here by herself. She turned on her heel and walked out. Fu Hang hurried after them, only glancing back to say a few words. Wan, I'll be back later. But before he could finish, Shanting dragged him away. My mother's eyes turned red with anger and heartache. She carefully helped me to my feet, her gaze overflowing with distress. Why did you stop, Mom? Now we've got to suffer for it. I squeezed Mom's hand back, letting her know I had it under control. For the entire month after giving birth, I stayed at my parents' place to recover. Other than bringing me instant chicken soup from the convenience store twice, Fu Hang never came over again. He even invited his loser friends to live with him in the wedding house my parents had prepared for me, and he even made it sound noble, saying he was too lonely living alone, and anyway, it would all be marital property in the end. Right after coming out of my postpartum confinement, Fu Hang, on the other hand, had himself all cleaned up and looking sharp. He was reeking of cheap perfume, the exact same scent Shanting had worn that day. I sneered inwardly, knowing they had wasted no time sneaking around behind my back while I was gone. But on the outside, I wore an expression of delighted, shy excitement. You came to pick me up. Fu Hang fussily straightened my already neat clothes. He pulled me into his arms and said, come on, I'm taking you home today. My mom wants to meet you. He didn't even care that I was still weak, and he was even reluctant to take a taxi. He just had me hop on the back of a motorcycle he'd borrowed from who knows where, staring at the motorcycle, which looked like it had holes everywhere and let the wind right through. I froze for a second and said, let's just take a cab. Hang's brow immediately furrowed into a knot. Take a cab? Do you know how much a ride costs? All you ever think about is wasting money. He gave the worn-out motorcycle's backseat a hard slap. What's wrong with that? The wind feels nice and cool, and it'll give you some fresh air too. Don't be so delicate all the time. He didn't even look at my pale face and just kept doing the math, speaking as if it were the most natural thing in the world. We're going to have plenty of expenses down the road, so we need to save up for a decent car. We should cut costs wherever we can now. Can't you be a little more sensible? Fu Hang's disgruntled voice by my ear stirred up memories. It was the same in my past life. I was pregnant and so nauseated I couldn't keep anything down. All I wanted was a bite of durian. I begged Fu Hang to buy even a tiny piece. He actually blamed me for being too needy and too picky. saying that when his mom was pregnant with him, she ate anything and everything. In the end, I watched a video where they mashed rotten bananas together with half a block of stinky tofu and tricked me into thinking it was roasted durian. He was so stingy with me. Yet he turned around and used my money to buy Shinting a trench coat worth several thousand. I shut my eyes in anger and said through clenched teeth, "I'll pay for the cab." Fu Heng finally fell silent, though he was still grumbling about the wasted money as he yanked open the car door and flopped into the back seat. I watched him close the door, then said nothing as I walked around to the other side, opened the door, and got in. "Driver, please hurry, we're in a rush." Fu Heng waved a hand at the taxi driver and gave his instructions. The driver glanced back at him, then at me, his eyes full of disapproval. "You." The driver had barely opened his mouth before I cut him off, forcing out a smile even uglier than crying. "It's fine, master, let's hurry." 5. In that dark, damp, rundown little old place, Fu Heng once lived crammed in with his grandparents, his mom and dad, and himself. Now that his grandparents were gone, it actually felt much more spacious. In my past life, there were rumors among the neighbors nearby that his family was trying to clear the old folks out of the way as soon as possible. People said they deliberately worked the two elderly people into a heart attack and then dragged their feet on calling an ambulance. Back then, I didn't believe it. Who could do something so vicious? That was murder. Now, though, I'm about 80% convinced. The more I think about it, the more it sounds exactly like something the Fu Heng family would do. "Auntie, why do you let just anyone into your house?" The moment I stepped into Fu Heng's house, Shinting's sharp voice rang out. I looked over at Fu Heng, and it was obvious from his expression that he already knew. I ignored Shinting and set the fruit I was holding on the table. "And you still have the nerve to show up with this cheap junk? How embarrassing. Go wash it, I'm going to eat it." I was just about to argue back when Fu Heng's mother spoke up. "Didn't you hear me? Hurry up and wash it. Ting is a guest, so you need to take good care of her." Shinting clung affectionately to Fu Heng's mother and shot me a taunting smile. Fu Heng took the bag from my hand and stepped in to smooth things over. All right, I'll wash it." Fu Heng placed the washed fruit platter in front of Shinting and even thoughtfully peeled the grapes. But the only thing he handed me was a wilted, yellowing apple. In Fu Heng's eyes, neither my master's degree from a 211 university nor all the silent hard work I put in would ever measure up to Shinting. So what if you went to a 211 school? So what if you have a master's degree? You still ended up bowing and scraping for me. I'll be blunt with you, if I didn't choose not to. Do you think Fu Heng would even be with you? I clenched my fists. They were bullying me right to my face. If I still didn't fight back now, then I'd really have to be out of my mind. "Fu Heng and I are going to get married." I stared straight at Shinting, but Shinting, on the other hand, seemed to have heard the joke of the century and was laughing herself silly. 6. Fu Heng's mother snapped, "Shut up. If it weren't for the baby in your belly back then, do you think you'd ever have been worthy of marrying into my family?" What a joke. Now my grandson is gone too. We're not even asking you to pay us back, so count yourself lucky we're being generous. You two are done. Cut ties and be done with it now. While tenderly stroking Shinting's head, Fu Heng's mother glared at me fiercely. Fu Heng was startled and quickly tugged at his mother's sleeve, giving her a meaningful look. "What about Brother Long's side?" Fu Heng's mother seemed to realize something, coughed twice, and quickly changed her words. "It's fine if we don't split it. Just pay my family 50,000 yuan for emotional distress, and we'll call it even." I was so pissed I almost laughed out loud. 50,000. Why doesn't she just go rob a bank? Does she really think I'm some sucker ATM? Don't think I don't know. This Brother Wang they're talking about is a loan shark, and Fu Heng owes him close to 1 million. Even if I threw in 50,000, the interest would just keep compounding on top of itself. It wouldn't even make a dent. I put on a deliberately difficult expression. "I spent every last penny I had on the surgery. I can't come up with 50,000. Don't your parents have pensions? Why not take it out first and give it to my son?" Fu Heng's mother spoke to me in a bossy, condescending tone. I curled up the corners of my mouth. This old hag really had quite the imagination. Seeing the troubled look on my face, Shinting deliberately covered her mouth and let out an exaggerated gasp. "No way, you can't even come up with 50,000, and you still say you love Fu Heng. I guess that's all there is to it." TSK. Hearing that, I clenched my fists and spoke. "No matter what you say, my parents' pension is absolutely off limits." After saying that, I turned and was about to leave. Seeing this, Fu Heng reached out to grab my hand, but his mother shouted at him and stopped him in his tracks. "Let her go. I'd like to see how capable she really is. When the time comes, she'll still have to swallow her pride and come crawling back to my son." Hee hee. if Fu Heng came after me, if he still had even a shred of conscience. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, Fu Heng still didn't. Catch up, Mom, she's bringing a whole house as part of her dowry, what are you so anxious for? I leaned helplessly against the mottled wall beside me and gave a self-mocking smile. 7. Just as I was about to leave, Wang Lichuan appeared. He blocked me at the door, reeking of alcohol. 2 thugs with menacing faces were trailing behind him, trying to leave. Wang Lichuan wore a savage grin, grabbed my collar, and hurled me to the ground hard. Fu Heng, what the hell kind of way is that to treat a woman? What if she runs? Who's going to pay back the money you borrowed from me? And what about what you owe Brother Long? My vision went black, and my ears buzzed. Shinting came over at a leisurely pace in her sky-high heels, then nudged my face with the tip of her shoe. Well, isn't this the tough girl whose kid just died? What? Can't bear to leave Brother Heng, so you crawled back. Too bad, Brother Heng's bed is mine now. You're not even fit to lick my shoes. She deliberately stroked her belly, which showed no sign of pregnancy at all. Fu Heng's mother came over carrying a basin of dirty water. With a splash, she dumped it beside me, splattering me all over. You jinx, hurry up and mop the floor. Fu Heng stood off to the side, his eyes flickering. In the end, under Wang Lichuan's hard stare and Shinting's coquettish pleading, he even said to me in a hoarse voice, "Be good, don't upset everyone." Wang Lichuan still didn't think that was enough. He crouched down and used his rough hand to pinch my chin. So, I hear you're pretty defiant. Still glaring at Tingting, with his other hand, he actually pulled a switchblade from the small of his back. It snapped open with a click. The cold blade lightly tapped against my cheek. Didn't manage to kill that bastard of yours last time. Huh, must be a real shame, isn't it? The chill of the blade, mixed with Wang Lichuan's foul breath, hit me head on. I felt a surge of nausea. You filthy bitch, I'm trying to be nice here, and this is how you act. You're asking for it. Wang Lichuan raised his hand, and my pupils constricted. The terrifying memories of being brutally beaten in my previous life surged back into my mind. Endless punches and kicks, a stabbing pain in my abdomen, and a ringing started in my ears. I couldn't stop shaking violently, my breathing coming in quick, ragged gasps. The overwhelming psychological trauma brought me close to a mental breakdown, and I even lost control of my bladder from sheer terror. Ha ha ha, look at her cowering like that, she peed herself. Shinting was laughing so hard her whole body shook. Brother Fu, look at her, she looks like a dead dog. Fu Heng couldn't bear it and turned his head away. It seemed to stir up a scene from his memory. That was the late night when he had failed in his investments and drunk himself into a stomach bleed. I was pregnant, just starting to show. Running back and forth through the hospital, I wiped away his vomit and patiently comforted him. Again and again, it's okay, money can be earned again, people matter most. Back then, my eyes were full of tenderness and resolve, completely unlike they are now, and even earlier than that. He knelt in the snow to confess his love, and I smiled through tears and said yes. She took off her own down jacket and wrapped it around him, even though her own lips had turned purple from the cold. Still, she kept saying she wasn't cold. He opened his mouth, his throat feeling a little dry. Maybe. Forget it, she just lost the baby, she can't take. Wu Lichuan's booze-reeking face snapped toward him, his eyes narrowing with a vicious glint. Fu Heng, what the hell do you mean by that? Feeling sorry for him now. Forgot who your real brother is. Forgot who it was that could front you the money to get back on your feet. Shinting immediately looped an arm around Fu Heng's as well, her voice dripping with sweetness, yet sharp as a blade. Han, why are you backing her up? She was just cursing our baby a minute ago. Look, you've scared me so badly my chest hurts. I matter a lot more than she does, don't I? Faced with his brother's threat and his lover's coy pleading, he lowered his head awkwardly, avoiding my desperate gaze, his voice barely audible. No, not heartless, I'm just afraid that if this really blows up, it'll turn into a mess. He chose to turn his back on me again. 8. I forced myself to muster my last ounce of strength and stumbled out of that suffocating den behind me. Shinting's shrill laughter and Fu Heng's mother's cutting insults rang out, but this time, I didn't look back. It wasn't until I was completely out of their sight that my legs gave out, and I nearly collapsed to the ground. My mother, who had been waiting downstairs for a long time, saw how pale I looked. Tears instantly flooded out. We're calling the police, right now. No, Mom, I took a deep breath and swallowed back the coppery taste in my throat. If we call the police now, at most, they'll be charged with disturbing the peace and held for a few days. That would be letting them off too easy. I motioned for my parents to look at the tiny black dot hidden inside the pocket of my down jacket. It was a high-definition recording device disguised as a button. Every punch and insult from just now is all in here, word for word. My voice was hoarse, and a faint smile tugged at the corners of my mouth, I hired bodyguards as quickly as I could and had my former residence surrounded. At the same time, I checked into a 5-star hotel with tight security and got in touch with the renowned lawyer Gu. After hearing my account and listening to the recording, lawyer Gu frowned deeply. "Miss Mu, this recording is strong evidence, but on its own, it may not be enough to get Wang Lichuan and the others sentenced harshly." "I know," I cut him off. "What I want is more than just holding them accountable for intentional assault." I pushed a stack of documents over to him. "These are records of the funds Fu Heng transferred out of my account under various pretexts, totaling 885,000 yuan. Some of that money went into an account under Wang Lichuan's name, apparently to help repay the loan sharks they owed together. The rest was transferred to Shen Ting's account and used for shopping and other expenses." Attorney Song's eyes lit up more and more. "But I need the right trigger. One moment that will expose all of their crimes at once, completely and unmistakably, while gathering evidence." I also had a private investigator dig deep into Shen Ting's background. The result was shocking. She was having inappropriate relationships with multiple men at the same time, including some who were married, and as for the child in her womb, based on the timing, there was no way to determine who the father was. Fu Heng couldn't find me, and he grew increasingly anxious. The loan sharks came knocking almost every day, and each time their threats got harsher, with interest piling on interest. He was already barely able to breathe under the pressure. Shen Ting had also started giving him the cold shoulder because he refused to buy her a new bag. Backed into a corner, Fu Heng, egged on by Wang Lichuan and Shen Ting's crying and fussing, came up with a vicious scheme. They planned to use public opinion to pressure me into showing up and giving in. Shen Ting brought in a few marketing accounts known for making up stories, and they started twisting the truth online. Shocking expose. Vicious fiancé deliberately miscarried on Mid-Autumn Festival to frame her boyfriend, then stole all his money and tried to drive the old man to his death. Poor boyfriend lost both love and money, only to be falsely accused. Whereas justice in the article, I was painted as a gold digger, someone who looks down on the poor and cherishes the rich. With a vicious heart, Fu Heng even dragged his mother to the entrance of my parents' residential complex to hang banners, cry foul, and play the victim. Netizens who didn't know the truth were easily stirred up, and waves of insults against me flooded the internet. "They're absolutely shameless." My mom was so furious her blood pressure shot up. I looked at Fu Heng and Shen Ting's fake tearful faces on the screen, and instead of getting angry, I laughed. "They're digging their own graves. The higher they jump, the harder they'll fall." I calmly contacted Attorney Gu. "The evidence you had prepared before can now be used to strike back." 10 First, a well-known legal commentator with a huge following posted a long article along with several audio and video clips. Major reversal. The truth behind the Mid-Autumn abortion abuse scandal revealed. Audio evidence confirmed. A shameless man and woman conspired to drive their own child to death. The blogger laid out the timeline in detail. They also released the ward recording I had originally provided. Public opinion flipped almost overnight. The harsher the criticism had been before, the fiercer the backlash now was. Then came the second bombshell, another gossip blogger leaked the transfer records for Shen Ting's pregnancy nutrition allowance, the receipts for luxury purchases, along with the money trail between Fu Heng and Wang Lichuan, exposing how they bled me dry for my hard-earned money to splurge and pay off gambling debts. The labels, freeloading while living off someone else, and a whole family of leeches instantly stuck to Fu Heng. An official police statement was also released at just the right time following an investigation into the reported case of unlawful entry into a residence, intentional assault, and public disturbance filed by Ms. Mu Yingwan. Suspect Wang Lichuan has been criminally detained in accordance with the law, and coercive measures have also been taken against Fu Heng and others. A triple blow. Fu Heng, Shen Ting, and his mother's phones were instantly flooded with calls. It was nothing but a flood of insults and condemnation. They'd become pariahs, with everyone out for their blood. The influencer accounts that had spoken up for them quickly deleted their posts, apologized, and distanced themselves. Fu Heng lost his job, and Shen Ting was also swiftly fired by the influencer company she worked part-time for. But it wasn't over yet. Just as Fu Heng was at his wit's end, he received an encrypted email from an unknown number. There was no text in the email, only dozens of high-definition photos and a few short videos. All of them were evidence of Shen Ting hooking up with different men, spanning a huge period of time. It even included footage of her fooling around with a black guy on the couch in my house. The last video was a conversation between Shen Ting and one of her girlfriends at a beauty salon. Wang Lichuan and Fu Heng, they're just raising another man's kid. Who knows whose bastard it really is, but as long as they're willing to claim it, that's all that matters. Shen Ting, you filthy woman, you dare lie to me. He immediately called Wang Lichuan as soon as the call connected. Fu Heng roared at the top of his lungs, "Wang Lichuan, you and Shenting's damn mother teamed up to screw me over." Wang Lichuan was already overwhelmed in prison, and this sudden call left him completely stunned by the barrage of insults. "Fu Heng, are you fucking crazy?" Lashing out like a rabid dog, "Shenting's that slut has slept with God knows how many men, what gives you the right to say I'm the one who lied to you?" The two men hurled the most vicious insults at each other over the phone, attacking each other's most vulnerable wounds. What had once been so-called brotherhood was now worth less than dirt. Fu Heng kept frantically calling Shenting's phone again. Shenting had just hidden herself when she saw Fu Heng calling. Irritated, she answered, "Hello, what are you yelling for? I'm broke, so hurry up and transfer me the money." "Shenting, you dirty slut, who is the bastard in your belly really fathered by? Say it, say it." Shenting was startled, but she immediately realized she'd been exposed. She still forced herself to stay calm. "Fu Heng, what the hell is wrong with you? Of course the child is yours. Who have you been listening to? Is that bitch Mu Ingwan trying to drive us apart?" "Bullshit. I've already seen the photos and videos. You slept with all those men, and you still think you can lie to me?" As soon as Shenting saw the evidence was conclusive, she stopped pretending and tore off the polite facade. "So what if it is, Fu Heng? Just look at you, what a pathetic loser, no money, no skills, nothing going for you. It'd be better if the kid weren't yours. You're only fit to be a cuckolded fool. Raising my child for me is the best thing you'll ever do. Bitch, I'm going to kill you. Kill all of you." Fu Heng had completely lost his mind, hurling vicious words at the woman he had once loved so deeply. "Kill me. Pay off Brother Long's debt first, you useless piece of trash." Shenting let out a shrill laugh and hung up. Fu Heng suddenly smashed his phone to the ground, and shards flew everywhere. 11. What happened next unfolded even faster than I had imagined. Fu Heng completely broke down mentally under crushing debt and overwhelming hatred. Long Ji's men showed up right on schedule to collect the debt from him. They gave him a brutal beating, breaking one leg and 3 ribs. Collection calls reached his hospital room, threatening that next they'd go after his critically ill mother. Fu Heng's mother was so terrified that she had a heart attack on the spot and was really rushed to the ICU. With medical bills that were astronomical, with nowhere else to turn, Fu Heng actually hobbled over on his casted leg, leaning on crutches, to the entrance of my parents' neighborhood. Wan, I was wrong, please forgive me," he cried out at the top of his lungs. "I'll pay you back every cent. Please, please help me. Brother Long's men are going to kill me." I looked coldly at the wretched man downstairs. My parents were worried and wanted to go out and drive him away, but I stopped them. I walked out onto the balcony, and the moment Fu Heng saw me, his eyes lit up. He tried to storm in, dragging his injured leg, but the security guards my family hired held him firmly outside the gate. Wan, let me in, let's talk this through properly. I know you still love me, right? Let's start over." He clung to the iron gate, tears streaming down his face as he pleaded. I slowly walked down, standing at the entrance of the neighborhood and looking at him from a distance. "Fu Heng, what makes you think I'd still want you? I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Shenting and Wang Lichuan forced me into this. I didn't mean it." With a thud, he dropped to his knees and started kowtowing repeatedly. "For the sake of the love we once shared, for the sake of how well I once treated you." "You call that treating me well?" I let out a cold laugh. "You mean kneeling in the snow for 2 hours was really just for a wager? You mean you tricked me with rotten bananas and stinky tofu, pretending it was roasted durian? You mean you used my money to buy Shenting a handbag? Or you mean you just stood there and watched Wang Lichuan hit me without lifting a finger?" Fu Heng's face went as pale as paper in an instant. "Why you? How do you know everything?" I took out my phone and played a recording. It was the very line he said in the hospital room that day. "If the child is gone, we can always have another." Fu Heng went completely limp and collapsed to the floor, his face drained of all color. "Fu Heng, do you know?" I leaned down, my voice soft but cold. "I play this recording for our child up in heaven every day, so he knows what a vile piece of trash his father is." "That's not true." "It's not." He shook his head frantically, tears and snot streaming down his face. I stood up and said to the security guard, "Thanks for your hard work, big brother. Don't ever let him set foot in this neighborhood again. If he dares to come back, call the police and have him charged with harassment." Wan, please, don't be so cruel." Fu Heng clung to the crack in the door and wailed. My voice drifted away into the air. 12. The final verdict in court was deeply satisfying. Wang Lichuan was sentenced to 12 years in prison for intentional injury resulting in serious bodily harm, unlawful entry into a residence, and picking quarrels and provoking trouble. with multiple offenses considered together, Fu Heng must return all loans he obtained from me as well as any unjust enrichment, and pay compensation for emotional distress, medical expenses, and related costs for failing to report what he knew about Wang Lichuan's criminal conduct. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison, suspended for 2 years. Shenting must fully return all property she unlawfully received as gifts for fabricating facts online and defaming others, with serious consequences. He was dealt with in a separate case and also sentenced to several months criminal detention. As soon as the verdict was announced, Fu Heng went ashen-faced and collapsed in the defendant's seat. Shenting let out a piercing scream and wailed on the spot, before being forcibly escorted out by court security officers. Wang Lichuan, meanwhile, kept hurling filthy curses. When the hearing ended, I stood up and, for the first time, walked toward Fu Heng, who was surrounded by reporters. A ridiculous glimmer flashed in his eyes, as if he thought I might still soften my heart. I looked at him and spoke into the microphone, my voice carrying throughout the entire courtroom. Fu Heng, spend the rest of your life paying for your sins in the mud. After saying that, I turned around and, with my parents beside me and the flash of cameras all around, straightened my back and walked out of the courtroom step by step, never looking back. 13. Shenting quickly took off with the last of the valuables from Fu Heng's home and went for plastic surgery, hoping to evade capture, but her good days didn't last long. She was hiding out in a small third-tier city, trying to reinvent herself as a beauty influencer and independent entrepreneur with the little money she had left. But her debut livestream turned into her worst nightmare. Not long after the stream started, the viewer count suddenly surged in a bizarre spike. The on-screen comments spiraled completely out of control. How can an accomplice to murder even have the nerve to go live? Do the cosmetics bought with stolen money work well? A flood of bullet comments with the hashtag Shenting's crimes hashtag instantly covered the screen. The forced smile on Shenting's face froze instantly, and she fumbled in panic to turn off the livestream, but she found the back end had completely spiraled out of control, and there was no way to shut it down. No, that's not true, it's fake. I was framed by that bitch Mu Yingwan. She lost her composure and screamed into the camera. Just then, there was a sudden, violent pounding on the door of her rented apartment. Open up, police. The live camera just happened to be pointed at the doorway. Viewers across the internet watched every second as Shenting scrambled and crawled toward the door to hold it shut, only to be caught on the spot by police who burst in. Shenting arrested on livestream shot straight to the top of the trending list, and viewers everywhere were delighted. She ended up living on the streets, and her mental state gradually unraveled. Someone caught her on camera, disheveled and rummaging through garbage for food, still wearing that neon pink camisole so filthy its original color was impossible to make out. Sometimes she would burst into wild, unhinged laughter, other times she would scream curses at thin air. I'm Mrs. Fu, all of you peasants get down on your knees. The child is Fu Heng's. No, Wang Lichuan's. No, wait, it's Mr. Li Zhongji's. That bitch Mu Yingwan stole my man. You all deserve to die. What's most ironic is that people found her wandering around the neighborhood where I used to live. She'd been chased off by security countless times, but she still wouldn't give up, muttering over and over, let me in, that's my home. Fu Heng loves me, he bought me a big house. In the end, on a cold winter night, someone found Shenting curled up beside a trash bin at the street corner. She was clutching a moldy, filthy steamed bun tightly in her hand, no longer breathing. Not long after Shenting died, Long Ji's men came looking for them again. This time, they didn't lay a hand on him, but instead gave Fu Heng a chance. He went overseas to carry out telecom fraud to pay off the debt. Fu Heng knew it was a one-way path, but under the pressure of massive debt and threats, he had no choice but to agree. Before leaving, he tried to see me one last time, only to be turned away without mercy by the neighborhood security guard. Later, I heard that life overseas was worse than death for him, and he suffered inhuman abuse and torment every day. In the end, during a police raid, he tried to escape by jumping out of a fifth-floor window and was left permanently paralyzed after the fall. Because of his special status, he was deported back to his home country, but what awaited him was a long prison sentence and a painful life ahead, spent with lifelong disability. His mother's condition worsened soon after he was imprisoned, and she died, with no one even there to claim her body. I heard he was still mumbling something at the very end. Mu Yingwan is nowhere near good enough for my son. Wang Lichuan didn't have it any easier in prison, because he never paid back the money he owed brother Long. Gu had specifically arranged for people in the prison to make his life a living hell every single day. By the time his 12-year sentence was up, he had been tortured beyond recognition, less than 3 months after his release, he died a miserable death on the streets. I took all the recovered money and the proceeds from selling off the luxury items. In the name of that child I never got to meet, I donated it all to a women's and Children's Protection Foundation. After finishing all that, I took a deep breath and felt more relaxed than ever before. Mom held my hand tightly. Juan, it's all over now. That's right, Mom, it's all over now. Looking at my mother in front of me, her hair already streaked with white from all the years she'd spent caring for me, my eyes stung with tears. It's all truly over, given a second life. I cut off all those toxic ties with my own hands. I made those who hurt me and trampled all over me pay a price 1,000 times greater. They would spend the rest of their lives struggling in pain, poverty, and public scorn, with no hope of ever turning things around. As for my future, it will be clean and entirely my own. The end. That's it for the first story. Don't go anywhere, the next one gets even better. During the May Day holiday, my husband suddenly showed up at the airport with his whole family and said it was a surprise for me. What was supposed to be a honeymoon for just the two of us turned into a honeymoon with my husband's entire family. Once we got to the destination, a whole group of people refused to follow instructions. My father-in-law dodged the ticket check and took a shortcut to a semi-open scenic area. My sister-in-law went for a cheap horseback ride with no safety measures. My mother-in-law climbed a mountain in the middle of the night to pick wild mushrooms. I stopped it all. While visiting the wildlife park, my resentful sister-in-law pushed me off the car. When the tiger clamped down on my neck, my husband slammed the door shut and floored it. Speeding off, I opened my eyes again. This time, they could do whatever they wanted. I came back from the restroom and found a crowd gathered around in the buffet, watching the commotion. Word was that an old lady had stuffed dozens of crabs in her chest area, and even had several boxes of sliced lamb rolls tucked into her waistband. The waiter thought she was acting suspiciously. He stopped her and wouldn't let her leave. What are you spouting nonsense for? Which eye of yours saw me steal anything? The customer is king, and we paid for it. Are you blind? Why are you stopping me for no reason? Let go, don't touch me. I'm this old. If you dare lay a hand on me, I might as well be dead. My reputation is ruined. Let's see how you're going to make up for it. The old lady's booming voice made me stop in my tracks. The male waiter who stopped her had no way to deal with her, so he called over the buffet restaurant manager. The buffet manager pointed to the security camera above the old lady's head. Ma'am, our restaurant has cameras everywhere. The footage clearly shows you hiding something. Just admit it, and pay the compensation we ask for. Then we won't call the police. Compensation? Compensation for what? Don't try to scare me. I didn't steal anything. You're lying through your teeth. The mother-in-law looked formidable, and she discreetly pulled the sun-protective jacket in her hand closer to her chest. The father-in-law took the opportunity to tug the mother-in-law along. Ignore them. This is outrageous. Just for a meal, and they're slandering people for no reason. The manager had no choice but to call over other waiters to stop the father-in-law and mother-in-law from leaving. During the scuffle, the mother-in-law was arguing so fiercely that the crabs shook loose from her clothes. When I leaned in to take a closer look, I saw the mother-in-law had stuffed way too much into her clothes. More than a dozen crabs had already fallen out. The waiter, who had just been chewed out by her, picked up the crabs from the ground and said, "The evidence is right here. You're the thief." Feeling humiliated, the sister-in-law tugged at the hem of her mother-in-law's clothes. "Mom, you're embarrassing yourself big time." Sensing something was wrong, the father-in-law jabbed his finger at the mother-in-law's forehead. "You shameless old woman, have you never eaten them or never even seen them? You're making a fool of yourself and dragging my name through the mud." My husband came in after finishing his phone call outside and saw me standing there in a daze. "Kiki, what are you doing?" I heard my son's voice. My mother-in-law kept shooting us both frantic looks. I knew she didn't want my husband to see her looking this embarrassed, and she didn't want him to be embarrassed along with her. I pretended I hadn't heard him and hurriedly pushed my husband inside. "Just pay up. If this keeps going, it's going to get serious." When my husband saw how embarrassed my mother-in-law looked, he was both angry and heartbroken. As more and more people gathered to watch, his face visibly turned red. He bent over and apologized to the manager, negotiating how much compensation he should pay. Seeing how embarrassed her son looked, my mother-in-law suddenly shot me a vicious glare. She pushed my husband aside, then knelt down pitifully in front of the manager. "Please forgive me. It was my fault. My daughter-in-law told me to do it. I'm just an old woman from the countryside and I've never been far from home. She said she'd already paid here, so I could eat and take whatever I wanted." My husband helped his mother up tenderly and kept explaining to everyone around us. "My mom probably misunderstood. It's partly my fault and my wife's too. We didn't make it clear to her." The mother-in-law opened my bag again. "My daughter-in-law took some too." I saw her put in a bunch of drinks, so I thought anything you eat here can be taken home, so shameless I rushed in, snatched the bag from her hands, and opened my phone. Hello, 911. I didn't get the chance to finish saying I was calling the police before my husband stopped me. He glared at me with a savage look on his face. What are you doing? I sneered. Someone slipped something into my bag and then turned around and accused me of stealing. Of course I'm calling the police, brother. Why don't you rein in your wife? You're really taking her side against your own family. My sister-in-law stood there with her hands on her hips, rolling her eyes at me nonstop. Our eyes met, a chill ran down my back, and I instinctively reached up to rub the back of my neck. Even though I had been reborn, the agonizing pain of having my neck bitten clean through by a tiger before I died still made my whole body tremble involuntarily. In my last life, I was just too kind-hearted. They refused to listen, and I kept patiently explaining things to them, trying to stop them from doing dangerous things. In the end, they held a grudge against me. On the last day of the holiday, while visiting the safari park, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law personally pushed me out of the car. When the tiger came charging straight at me, I clung desperately to my mother-in-law, who was trying to shut the door, while my father-in-law and sister-in-law forced my hands off. I pleaded with my husband through tears. Li Feng, save me, don't leave me behind, I'll never forget the last thing he said to me before he hit the gas and drove off. I'm sorry, they're all my family, you're on your own, I can't sacrifice my whole family for you. Actually, the tiger was still quite a distance away from me at that time. As soon as I fell out of the car, I realized the danger and quickly got back on my feet. The vehicles behind me kept honking, trying to scare the tiger away and give me a fighting chance. I asked for help several times. My in-laws deliberately refused to open the door after I was bitten to the brink of death. My in-laws seized the opportunity to demand a hefty compensation payment. They took the money, bled my family dry, and then smeared me in public, saying I deserved to be bitten to death and was just making a scene. They spread rumors that I had a breakdown in the car and threatened that if they didn't let me out, I'd jump. It wasn't that they refused to save me, it was that I was throwing a tantrum and didn't want to get in the car. The reason my in-laws treat me like this is because they know my parents died in a car accident when I was in college, and my only close family is my husband, Li Feng. After the compensation money came through and the news hype died down, my in-laws gave up on treating me. After I died, I turned into a spirit and watched him swallow up my family's assets and marry a new wife. His new wife was my sister-in-law. It turned out my sister-in-law was an adopted daughter. Since the day my in-laws brought her home, they had raised her as my husband's future wife. Kiki, what's wrong with you? Li Feng's reproachful voice pulled me back from my painful memories. I burst into tears, feeling utterly wronged, and pounded on Li Feng with clenched fists. What is wrong with you? We were supposed to be on our honeymoon, and you brought your whole family along without even asking me. Fine, I could let that slide, but your mother has sticky fingers and then had the nerve to accuse me. Who treats someone like this? My sister-in-law was sharp-tongued and didn't back down, hitting me right where it hurt. It's because you have no father or mother. If you did, would we really stop you from bringing them? I raised my hand and slapped my sister-in-law. You ill-mannered brat. The way she put it, it was as if they were going on a family trip and just dragging me along for the ride. Li Feng held her back when his younger sister-in-law tried to strike back. I glared at Li Feng hatefully. If that's the case, then call the police. Once they get here, the truth will come to light, and that's best for everyone. The old lady wailed and searched everywhere for a window, shouting, I might as well die. After running around and finding no window, she dashed into someone else's kitchen. As soon as she went in, the chef inside grabbed her and tossed her right back out. Her ridiculous antics had the other customers roaring with laughter. My father-in-law couldn't take it anymore, so he had my husband pay and quickly leave. For the first time, Li Feng cursed at her mother. Aren't you embarrassed enough already? Hurry up and go. The restaurant was done with troublemakers like this old lady. They only asked for a token amount of money, then have her take out everything she's hidden on her. The old woman pulled open the waistband of her pants. The young manager let out a shriek in fright. Everyone turned their heads away. I have no idea how long Grandma had been digging. The huge pile of meat rolls on the ground left everyone stunned. I walked at the very back. Li Feng suddenly came over and pulled me. Honey, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I was in the wrong today, and from here on out, I'll let you decide how we play. My mother-in-law came over reluctantly to apologize. Kiki, I figured you're the only outsider in our family, so helping Mom out of an awkward spot wouldn't be a big deal. Do you really have to be this petty? That wasn't an apology at all. It was just a sarcastic jab at me. In my last life, my parents raised me too well. I didn't know how to curse at people, and I also felt like she was an elder. We hardly ever had any contact in the first place, so I just put up with it. But in this life, I'm not going to indulge her anymore. I reached out and snatched the gold bracelet from her wrist and the gold necklace from her neck. I'm just an outsider in your family. These were all bought for you by outsiders, so I'm taking them as an outsider. My mother-in-law rushed over in a fluster to snatch it away, but accidentally fell to the ground and wailed in distress. I thought Li Feng would scold me, but instead he was unexpectedly gentle. He intertwined his fingers with mine. Mom, I have eyes. Stop pretending. Li Feng's attitude suddenly changed. As a master of acting, my mother-in-law immediately came over and took my hand. Li Feng really knows how to pick a wife. My Coco is so understanding. Seeing that I was still angry, my mother-in-law apologized again. Coco, Mom knows she was wrong. Please give these pieces of jewelry back to me. You make good money, so you don't need these little things. I didn't understand it. How did they suddenly change their tune? I tore up the travel itinerary in front of my mother-in-law, then pulled a credit card out of my bag and handed it to her. We're out here to have fun, so just let loose and spend however you want. I'll cover all the expenses. That made my mother-in-law grin from ear to ear. She grinned and slipped the card into her pocket. We're all family here. What's yours is ours too. Good girl. Li Feng was about to say something, but I leaned close to his ear. I didn't bring any other card. Use yours for now, and I'll pay you back the money on it when we get home. He ruffled my hair. Wife, you're so good to me. I turned around, and the moment they couldn't see me, my face fell. How shameless. My honeymoon, and I'm the one footing the bill while his whole family spends the money. If my mother-in-law knew that over the next few days we'd be spending her son's money the whole time, she'd probably want to tear me limb from limb. After heading back to the hotel for a midday rest, my sister-in-law was going horseback riding. My in-laws and my sister-in-law were acting just like they did in my previous life, only Li Feng seemed completely out of sorts. He wasn't like he was in my previous life, when he only knew how to stay by his parents' side. Instead, it stuck to me like a shadow. The way he looked at me was incredibly gentle. Li Feng's stare made my skin crawl, and I remembered how cold he had been to me when the tiger tore me apart in my previous life. I resented him for deliberately keeping his distance from me. The colder I was to him, the better he treated me. He practically wanted to dump all his kindness on me at once. These actions pissed off her sister-in-law, who worked in the same field in my past life. As long as Li Feng showed even the slightest support for me, she'd get jealous and stir up trouble. Back then, I honestly thought she was still too young to know any better. Looking back now, it's really ironic. My husband was keeping a mistress right under my nose, and I was the poor fool paying out of pocket to buy her this and that. My sister-in-law kept complaining that her leg hurt and made her brother carry her. Li Feng turned around and carried me on his back, while I stood there frozen in place. Your sister-in-law doesn't have much stamina. Sweetie, you're such a good girl. If you hadn't reminded me, I would have almost forgotten. I struggled to jump down, but he squatted and set me down, then lifted me up in his arms. Sweetheart, be good. Back in school, I used to carry you all the time, don't you remember? My scalp went numb when the beautiful memories of our romance came flooding back. My eyes welled up with tears. Back then, I was really taken with that kind of man. Otherwise I wouldn't have married beneath me. He came from humble beginnings, but he was a top student and handsome, with countless admirers at university. I was one of them. My parents died in a car crash, leaving me a huge inheritance. He had no money, no house, just a crumbling mud brick home back in his village. Things that once moved me to tears now only make me sick to my stomach and send shivers down my spine. Li Tian was so enraged that her face twisted into a ferocious snarl. She grabbed her mother-in-law by the arm. Mom, just look at them. How can they be so shameless in public? Just as his mother-in-law was about to speak, Li Feng jerked his chin at her. Spend whatever you want. Since she'd accepted his favor, his mother-in-law told his father-in-law to drag Li Tian away. We arrived at the racetrack. The official rides were too expensive for them, so Li Tian insisted on taking the cheap horse ride outside the venue, which had no safety measures. In my past life, I wouldn't let her ride it and told her that if the horse ever went out of control, being dragged along could be life-threatening. My mother-in-law said I was making too much of a fuss. Li Tian said I just didn't want her to play. Li Feng also said I was making a big deal out of nothing this time. I chose to keep my mouth shut. After getting on the horse, Li Tian said she was scared and suggested that Li Feng ride with her. Li Feng turned to look at me. Honey, let's go together. I looked at the few wild horses around me, all of which had stirrups but no riding boots. It was only by some miracle that I got a second chance at life. I wasn't about to die. I had just been about to make a run for it. Li Feng grabbed me and heaved me onto the horse's back. Li Feng wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, and I struggled to get down. The horse owner told me to put my foot in the stirrup. I refuse. No matter what, the image flashed through my mind of being thrown from a wild horse, one foot caught in the stirrup as I was dragged along, my face utterly ruined, looking neither human nor ghostly. Goosebumps broke out all over me. Li Feng tried to calm me down. Honey, don't be scared, I'm right behind you, you're the scary one, standing behind me. I was on edge and blurted it out. Li Tian, riding the horse in front, turned around with a pout. Brother, if your sister-in-law isn't scared, come keep me company. I'm scared, I need my brother. So I went along with it. You go on ahead, I don't want to ride. Are you still mad at my mom? She's never been out in the world much. And she was in the wrong. I'm sorry on her behalf. Please forgive me, he kept talking as he tried to get me to put my foot in the stirrup. I shouted at the top of my lungs that it wasn't safe. He even went out of his way to insult the horse owner. The way you're doing business is illegal. Aren't you afraid of being reported? The horse owner was already annoyed and, furious, told me to get down. Watch your mouth. I'm done doing business with you. Without a permit, how am I supposed to do business here? A woman like you would get beaten to death just for going out. You've got such a filthy mouth. The argument between me and the horse owner kept escalating. Li Feng stepped in to break us up and told me to stop making a fuss. When you're away from home, don't get into verbal fights in someone else's place. It's not safe. The horse owner, speaking in a heavy local dialect, flew into a rage and tried to hit me while dodging. I nearly fell off the horse. His mother stood nearby, looking smug and stirring the pot. Kiki, I'm only saying this because I'm your mother. You're not much better than me. There are so many people watching, and making a scene like a shrew here is bad for your image. Li Feng shot his mother a glare. Say less. Li Tian gleefully called the horse owner over. Don't mind her. She doesn't ride horses. I do. Waiting for Li Tian to put her foot into the stirrup, the horse owner led the horse forward. My father-in-law shot me a disapproving glance. Look at our Tian, so brave. As he said that, he gave Li Feng a meaningful look. Girls from the big city are all spoiled rotten. Girls from our village are much better. I fanned myself with my hand, and Li Feng handed me a bottle of water. I let out a cold snort with a smile. What you mean, father-in-law? Isn't that the village girls are good, but that Tian is good, right? But she's Li Feng's younger sister. Do you and mother-in-law want him to marry his own sister? Nonsense. His father-in-law wore a grim expression, his face tightening with anger. His mother-in-law grabbed her husband's arm. This is beyond the pale. Listen to the way your wife is talking. Does that sound like something a human being would say? Li Feng was getting a little impatient too. Kiki, you've gone too far. You took the joke too far. How can you talk about Tian like that? She's my sister. I shrugged and looked over at Li Tian, perched on the horse's back. Brother, take a picture of me. Li Tian swayed her waist, flicked her long hair, adjusted her shawl, and blew a kiss to her husband after being repeatedly embarrassed in front of me. Li Feng was no longer happy about it. He put a hand to his mouth and said, smile sweetly for me, and look at me. He enthusiastically guided Li Tian on how to pose for the photo. The horse suddenly started running. Li Tian screamed with excitement. Li Feng also ran after the horse as it took off, snapping photos along the way. He was so absorbed in taking pictures that he bumped into me several times when he backed up. I couldn't swallow that insult, so I lifted my foot and kicked him in the butt. Kiki, have you got firecrackers up your butt? Why are you so fired up? He turned back and glared at me. I suppressed the bitterness in my chest and said lightly, as if it were nothing, sorry for interrupting your little world together. You're so petty to be jealous even over my sister. Li Tian started singing loudly. Let's be companions in this red dust, living carefree and unrestrained. The horse, which had been trotting along, seemed to be startled by her singing and suddenly bolted forward. Seeing how silly she looked, I just couldn't help laughing. I watched expressionlessly as Li Tian was thrown off the horse and hit the ground. The horse's owner tried to rein it in. The panicked horse bolted wildly and kicked its owner flying. Li Feng suddenly grabbed me by the throat and glared at me through clenched teeth. You deserve to be mauled to death by that tiger. If you want revenge, come at me. What did Tian do wrong to deserve being framed by you? Like this, tears burst from my eyes, and the pain in my chest made it hard to breathe. I was right after all. Li Feng had been reborn too. Someone help, please, save my daughter. The old woman collapsed on the ground, crying out in agony. The groom kept chasing after the horse, but it was no use. The more he chased it, the more frightened it became, and Li Tian's screams grew even more desperate. Li Feng, regardless of the danger, desperately tried to pull Li Tian's foot free from the stirrup, throwing out his arms without a care for his own life to block the horse. A kind passerby forcibly dragged Li Feng away. Are you crazy? If you keep this up, both you and the person on the horse will die. Everything before my eyes was a stark contrast to the life I'd lived before, when I was torn apart by a tiger. Sure enough, they really were the ones who belonged together as a family compared with Li Tian and my in-laws. I hated Li Feng even more, so he was willing to risk his life for someone else after all. It just wasn't me. In my past life, a tiger bit through my neck, and even as I was drawing my last breath, I still found countless excuses for him. I wanted to say, that's just human nature. We may have loved each other for years, but we'd only been married for a few days. When faced with a tiger, running away was his instinct, but he saw him overcome his fear with his own eyes, knowing full well that if he were struck by a stampeding horse, he would either die or be crippled. And yet, he still chose without hesitation to go save Li Tian. It took several horse-riding professionals from the stable to calm the horse down. At last, the moment Li Tian's foot came free from the stirrup, the entire in-laws family rushed over. Seeing Li Tian's face torn beyond recognition from being dragged across the ground, her mother-in-law fainted on the spot. Seeing Li Tian's mangled, bloody state, her father-in-law felt sick to his stomach and couldn't stop retching. Li Feng was completely stunned, frozen in place, covering his eyes with both hands, too afraid to look at Li Tian. I pinched myself hard, then rushed over to Li Tian, crying my eyes out, with tears and snot streaming down my face. Sis, I told you it was dangerous to ride a bronco without wearing boots, but you just wouldn't listen. Now look what's happened. At your age, when you're in the prime of your life, even your nose is gone. How are you supposed to live like this? After saying that, I started pounding my chest hard again, overwhelmed with guilt. It's my fault, sister-in-law. If I'd known, I should have held on to you. The bystanders saw me crying so hard my whole body was shaking, and tried to comfort me. It's not your fault. I was there the whole time when you were arguing with that stable hand. You didn't do anything wrong. You tried to stop it. A tall, thin man stood behind him, holding his girlfriend, who was frozen stiff with fear. Luckily, you got into an argument with the horse owner. Otherwise, my girlfriend would have gotten on it. It was only because my sister stepped in and argued with the groom that we gave up halfway and dodged a bullet. The tourists all started talking at once. The horse owner tried to run. I rushed over in a rage and grabbed him tightly. You did this to my sister. You're not getting away. Workaholics tend to be a bit extreme. The horse's owner drew a knife and lunged at me. I dodged quickly. The dagger shot straight toward Li Feng. Seeing that the dagger had missed the heart by quite a bit, a flicker of displeasure flashed in my eyes. The police car arrived first and took the coachman away. The ambulance soon arrived as well. Mother-in-law was slapped awake by father-in-law. My parents-in-law and Li Tian got into one ambulance. Li Feng and I got into another ambulance. On the way to the hospital, Li Feng was a little out of it, and he held my hand tightly. Honey, am I going to die? I don't want to die. I wronged you in my last life, and in this one, let me make it up to you properly. Don't be mad at me. I was trying to make it up to you, but you had to keep snapping at me, so I deliberately took photos of Sweetie to make you jealous and angry. Honey, it wasn't until you died in my past life that I realized you were the one I loved most. Li Tian and I were never meant to be. I really, really love you. Kiki. Li Feng's surgery went smoothly, but Li Tian wasn't nearly as lucky. She had been dragged around for too long and went into shock as soon as she was wheeled into the operating room. The hospital did everything it could to save her, but it was to no avail. When Li Tian died, I thought my in-laws would be devastated. Instead, they put on a show, shed a few crocodile tears, and suggested cremating her on the spot. When the body was taken to the crematorium, I accidentally overheard my mother-in-law and father-in-law talking. My mother-in-law sighed. Tian's dead. Let's put the original plan on hold for now and have Lin Kiki give us a big, chubby grandson first. My father-in law lowered his voice. They only paid 100,000 yuan. What a waste. I was even thinking that if our son didn't like her, we could just marry her off and collect a 500,000 yuan bride price. My mother-in-law cursed coldly. Who knew she'd be so short-lived too? A lawsuit would be far too much trouble, and I don't have the energy to keep fighting over it. She's dead already. Must be because she was just born under a bad star. My father-in-law was still complaining that my mother-in-law had been too blunt. With such a huge public backlash, if they kept pushing, they should be able to squeeze out a bit more. What else do you want? It's only when the money is in your hands that it feels real. He's dead anyway. When we get back, I'll adopt a few more and start preparing for my eldest grandson. Listening to her, a chill ran down my back. My father-in-law kept reminding my mother-in-law to keep her voice down so no one else would hear. From their conversation, I learned that they never completed the adoption paperwork. Li Tian's birth parents wanted a baby boy, so they spread the word that they couldn't afford to raise her. Her in-laws then brought Li Tian home and raised her as their own. From a young age, they brainwashed her into believing she would marry Li Feng when she grew up. After Li Tian grew up, the old couple kept creating chances for the two of them to sleep together in the village. Everyone knew Li Feng and Li Tian were a couple, no wonder, ever since college, whenever Li Feng went home, he would stop answering calls, and he always looked exhausted with dark circles under his eyes. Before we got married, I suggested going to his hometown to take a look, but every time he refused, rage surged to the top of my head. My entire worldview was dealt a crushing blow, and I clenched my jaw so hard I nearly bit through the inside of my cheek. Where's the family of patient in bed 78? Hey, your husband's awake. The nurse shouted at me. I didn't respond and hurried off to the restroom not far away. A little later, when I went back to the ward, my in-laws were talking about something with Li Feng. It sounded like they were arguing. They only stopped when they saw me come in. My father-in-law kept fishing around, asking me between the lines, "Kiki, were you at the hallway entrance just now?" I looked completely baffled. No, I wasn't. I had a stomachache, so I went to the bathroom. After my in-laws exchanged a glance, my mother-in-law sat down in front of my husband. Feng, was Kiki in the hospital room before she went to the bathroom? My neck went rigid, and all I could think about was my mother-in-law's words just now about putting the plan on hold for the time being. What exactly are they plotting? I remembered her talking about adopting one, and I couldn't shake the feeling that behind their down-to-earth, honest-looking facade was a cold-blooded cruelty beyond human decency in their eyes. Li Tian's life was worth only 100,000 yuan. Without Li Tian, I could only be their target. Mom, stop imagining things. I have no idea what you're suspicious about. Li Tian's death put Li Feng in a very bad mood, and he pulled the blanket over his head. My mother-in-law still wanted to interrogate me. The crematorium staff asked my in-laws to come and collect Li Tian's ashes. After my in-laws left, Li Feng sat up, held me, and started crying. Honey, my little sister is gone. I don't have a sister anymore. I only have you now, so please, you mustn't leave me. I didn't say anything. I felt utterly nauseous at this moment. I hated him to the core. Let's have a baby. I want a baby. I shoved him away hard and looked at him in disbelief. Your sister just died, and you're already in a rush to have a baby. Don't you think that's ridiculous? Li Feng wiped away his tears. That doesn't clash with anything. It's precisely because life is so unpredictable that I want to have a child. Let's go to your hometown. I want to take a look around there. I didn't turn him down outright. Somehow, I had a feeling that my in-laws were hiding a huge secret back in their hometown. Li Feng's wound wasn't deep. It only cut through the skin on his stomach and didn't go in very far. My mother-in-law suggested that we not go back to our hometown for now and keep traveling. My face went pale in an instant. Your sister-in-law is dead, and you still feel like traveling. My mother-in-law said I had no idea what the world was like after she got the ashes last night. She and my father-in-law casually scattered them into a small river. They called it a little stream, but based on where they described it, it was clearly the stinking ditch in front of the crematorium. They couldn't even be bothered to hold a proper funeral. My father-in-law sipped his tea and said, "The dead can't be brought back to life. Since we finally got out for a trip, we might as well keep traveling." Li Feng patted me on the shoulder. "That's just the custom where we come from. Girls don't have roots, so you can just scatter the ashes anywhere." Those are such vicious words. Hearing them really left a bad taste in my mouth. I rolled my eyes so hard. So you're saying that after I die, even my ashes would just be thrown into some filthy ditch by you people? My mother-in-law shook her head and tried to sweet-talk me. You're different. As long as you give the Li family a big, healthy grandson, our family grave will always be open for you. What kind of ridiculous talk is that? I raised an eyebrow, completely speechless. I'm not having kids. My calm remark made all three of them blow up at the same time. Li Feng's face darkened as he tugged at me. Don't joke around. My father-in-law's forehead veins bulged, as if he was about to kill me. Our Li family has had only one son for 3 generations. How could the line end with you? My mother-in-law lectured me with a ferocious, clawing expression. Kiki, what woman doesn't have children? You can skip a meal, but you can't skip having kids. Hearing that makes me want to smash their heads in. My mother-in-law saw that I didn't argue back. She kept lecturing me like she knew it all as someone who'd been there. A son is a woman's security. Look how great my son Li Feng is. You must have agreed to marry him because you love him, and since you love him, you should have a child for him. Why don't you go back home for a bit? I changed the subject again just then. A nurse came in to change Li Feng's dressing and reminded me as soon as she saw me. Don't stand over by the walkway anymore. The railing there is broken and under repair. Someone once fell to their death there, so be careful, okay? The sudden remark caught me so off guard that a cold sweat broke out across my back. I could clearly see a vicious, sinister look creeping into my in-laws' eyes. My mother-in-law asked me with feigned concern, Kiki, did you happen to hear anything in the hallway yesterday? I thanked the nurse first. Thanks for the heads up, I was taking a call. there yesterday," she turned back and replied to her in-laws with calm composure. News about Tiantian's accident was all over the place. Some of my colleagues and friends knew her, so they called to comfort me. "I see," mother-in-law murmured to herself. My father-in-law made up an excuse to take my mother-in-law out for a walk and asked me to keep an eye on Li Feng. When he heard that his parents-in-law were going hiking, Li Feng suggested they go up the mountain with some local farmers, saying that wild mushrooms had started sprouting in the mountains lately and were delicious. He had been hoping to try something fresh on this trip. As soon as he heard that his son wanted to eat them, my mother-in-law was full of energy. Feng, just you wait, I'll be picking for you tonight." When she left, my mother-in-law sent me away and had me go downstairs to get the medicine. I slipped back again when they weren't paying attention. I watched carefully to see what they were plotting. My husband looked embarrassed. "This doesn't seem right. We're in a hospital, after all." Father-in-law patted him on the shoulder. "We're already out here on our honeymoon, so why be so shy?" I was still a bit dazed, so I checked the location on my phone. The person I called should be here any minute now. After dinner, my in-laws set off, telling me they wouldn't be back until tomorrow morning. My mother-in-law said she'd looked it up online and that a lot of wild mushrooms would pop up in the mountains at dawn. If you got up at 3 a.m. and headed out with the farmers, you could harvest quite a lot. I reminded my mother-in-law, "I really wouldn't go. There are so many kinds of mushrooms around here, including plenty of poisonous ones. If you pick the wrong kind and stew them for dinner, the whole family could end up flat on their backs." My father-in-law is very superstitious about death. He raised his hand and knocked over the fruit basket by the hospital bed, then shouted at me, "Why do you always have to talk so unpleasantly? Do you just hope that the two of us die soon?" My mother-in-law gave me a disgusted look. "I've lived in a mountain village my whole life. Don't insult people." I nodded my apology, and a sense of anticipation began to stir in me. Just like in my previous life back then, she had picked a whole bunch of poisonous mushrooms and insisted on making soup for us. I dumped it out, and she flew into a rage and fought me, leaving a scar on my face. Li Tian's death hadn't changed their habit of courting death. After they left, Li Feng kept holding me, reminiscing about all our sweet memories. After the nurse came to take away his 4-drip, he suddenly shamelessly pinned me down on the hospital bed. "Kiki, I can't take it anymore. Satisfy me. I nearly threw up the food I ate yesterday." This guy actually wanted to do that kind of thing in a hospital room. I suddenly remembered the conversation I'd overheard between my in-laws earlier that day. It all clicked in an instant. This had to be a rotten idea from my in-laws, trying to pressure me into having a baby. I glared at Li Feng with hatred. "If you dare force yourself on me, I'll sue you for assault. Just wait to rot in jail." He didn't take it seriously. Then he shamelessly started putting his hands all over me. "I'm your husband. What are you embarrassed about? Even if the King of Heaven himself came down, I'd still be perfectly legal and above board." His body weighed me down so hard I couldn't muster any strength. When he saw me struggling, he forcefully grabbed my wrist and pinned it to the headboard. A wave of desperate fear crashed over me, and I fought him in tears. "Get off me, stay the hell away from me, or I'll tear you to pieces." In my struggle, I hit Li Feng's wound. He winced in pain and looked at me suspiciously. "You're this repulsed by me. Could it be that you've been reborn too?" I turned my face away and refused to look at him. "I don't know what you're talking about. We were once husband and wife. Have some dignity. This is a hospital, not some place for you to satisfy your filthy desires." I never admitted to being reborn. His brows knitted into a tight frown. "You really don't remember anything about the safari park. Let go of me, or I'll scream." "Li Feng, you bastard." He had no intention of letting me go. I screamed for help at the top of my lungs, afraid of being discovered. He clamped both hands over my mouth. "What are you shouting for?" His Adam's apple bobbed as desire filled his eyes, and he began tearing at my clothes. "Oh, is that so, Li Feng? My daughter just died, and you're already messing around with another woman, and in a hospital, no less." A middle-aged woman burst in with a group of men, yanked back the blanket, and started snapping photos of the person in the bed. They shut the hospital room door and dragged Li Feng, still half-dressed, onto a chair. "Who are you people? I don't know you." Those guys didn't say a word. After a few brutal punches, Li Feng, his face bruised and swollen, finally caved. "I really don't know you. What do you want?" The woman slapped his face a few times and said, "Open your damn eyes. I'm Li Tiantian's biological mother. I'm here to avenge my daughter." By then, I had already gotten dressed, but I was still hiding under the covers. Someone dragged me out and raised a hand to hit me. I begged Li Feng to save me, saying I was his wife, legally married. The woman grabbed my hair with a smile, tugging so hard it brought tears to my eyes. My daughter was formally married to him too. Everybody within 10 miles knows it. With that, she pulled a towel out of her pocket and stuffed it into my mouth. Then she shot a sidelong glance at the people around her. Drag this woman out and give her a good beating. I was frantic as I begged Li Feng for help. Honey, please explain this. Isn't Tian your own little sister? What is going on? The knife was pressed against Li Feng's neck. Terrified, his legs shook as he lowered his head and cursed at me through clenched, slurred words. You wicked woman, you killed Tian and still won't admit it. You were the one who seduced me. I never once strayed from you. I was dragged outside at midnight. The hospital only had the on-duty nurse. It didn't attract much attention. After we got outside, a few older men asked me sheepishly, we didn't scare you, did we? I just laughed it off and said no, this is a prank show. You can even test your partner. The production team applied special effects makeup to make it look like I had injuries. I went back in and saw a pool of yellow liquid on the floor. Li Feng had been so scared he wet himself. It was supposed to be a prank game to test the other woman, but Li Feng nearly lost his mind. I apologized to the production team and stopped filming. The production team became suspicious of Li Feng, saying he had said a lot of strange things when he was scared. He said his parents had chained up several adopted children back in their hometown. I begged the production crew to call the police, and I also gave them Li Feng's hometown address. Having done something guilty, Li Feng didn't believe this was just a prank. He kept shouting all night that he wanted to be discharged from the hospital. As soon as the doctor started work the next morning, I arranged for him to be discharged. After leaving the hospital, with nowhere to go, I found a short-term rental nearby. After settling in, Li Feng went into the room to call his parents and in-laws, and wouldn't let me listen in after what happened last night. He was making no secret of how dirty he thought I was. Get away from me. I rolled up my sleeves and cursed at him. Do you want to explain how Li Tian and you were already married in all but name? His eyes darkened with fury as he glared at me. How much longer are you going to keep up this act? Kiki, don't think I don't know. You've been reborn too. Something was off about him. I tried to run, but he yanked me back and blocked the door. Suddenly, he dropped to his knees in front of me and sobbed out an apology. Coco, I wronged you in my past life. Let me make it up to you in this one. I pretended to cry too. Feng, I still love you. Given the situation, I couldn't afford to anger him. A few hours later, my in-laws came back carrying a huge basket of mushrooms. I suggested that since it was still early, we should go on a picnic this afternoon. Li Feng nodded eagerly. Perfect. I'd like to get some fresh air too. We rented a picnic tent for the day. I found the spot myself, up in the mountains, with a little stream and green trees. It was really peaceful. After we set up the tent, my mother-in-law started making soup with a portable gas stove. I leaned in and said, smells amazing. She shoved me aside at once. None for you. You can have something else. Judging by her attitude, chances were that Li Feng had told them I'd been tarnished. After a while, Li Feng and I started arguing. My phone was full of photos of him and Li Tian back in our hometown. I was crying my heart out. Give me an explanation, you bastard. At first, he was still apologizing with his head bowed, but later he went insane and tried to hit me. Dirty woman, what right do you have to insult me? You've been ridden by so many men, slut. I didn't. I clamped down hard on his arm. The moment my bite sent him into pain, he lost all restraint, becoming as frenzied as a demon as he kicked and punched me without mercy. My in-laws stood not far away, snickering as they watched the spectacle. Ah, I screamed as I fell from the cliff. He crouched down and forcefully pried my fingers off the vine I was clutching for dear life. Go to hell. Your entire inheritance is mine now. You stupid woman. Even after getting a second chance at life, you're still no match for me. He watched helplessly as I fell, but he didn't see the smug smile that curled at my lips as I went down. I had already studied the lay of this hillside. From above, it looked like a cliff, but in the middle of the slope there were actually several trees. When I went to rent the climbing gear, I paid a few guys a hefty sum to rig a safety net for me halfway up the mountain. I also had a safety air cushion laid out underneath. As for the milk Li Feng told me to drink, I'd already swapped it out. On the mountain, the mother-in-law ladled out the stewed wild mushrooms. The father-in-law asked Li Feng, still uneasy, if Kiki didn't die from the fall. Then we're in real trouble. Li Feng took the wild mushrooms his mother-in-law handed him, took a sip, and said, she's dead for sure. The bottle they used for her milk was the same one that held paraquat. You know what that stuff is? So delicious. Wild mushrooms from the mountains really are the tastiest. I've been craving a bite of this for ages. Li Feng savored it. His in-laws joined in and drank several bowls as well. After Grandma finished drinking, she felt thirsty and poured them a few more glasses of milk. Li Feng had barely taken a sip when he frowned. Something's off about this taste. When he looked down, He saw that I had swapped out the bottle of milk. He threw the milk in his hand away. He kept sticking his fingers down his throat, gasping, "Hurry, drink some water. The milk's been laced with paraquat." After drinking too much mushroom soup, the three of them collapsed on the floor, vomiting nonstop. Before long, they fell unconscious. I only found out about this scene on the third day after I was sent to the hospital. I narrowly escaped death and called the police, saying my husband was trying to kill me. The police received the emergency call. The police found their bodies on the mountain, horribly mutilated after being eaten by animals. The scene above was a simulated pre-death scenario recreated by the forensic pathologist. I finished coordinating with the police. The prank show just dropped a bombshell. They found my husband's hometown. My mother-in-law had several young girls chained up in the basement. In front of them were dog bowls filled with sour, spoiled leftovers, and the water they drank was muddy river water. Investigations found that they were all baby girls given away by their parents and then taken in by their in-laws from the surrounding area. In almost all of these cases, the families preferred boys over girls. To have a child, they simply gave the girls away. The report sparked a huge public outcry. It has drawn attention from all sectors of society. The holiday was over, and I was on the plane. Heading back, I turned on my phone. Shocking. Brazen old lady hid 50 crabs in her chest and stole 10 jeans of meat in her underwear. A young woman on vacation went horseback riding, got her leg caught in the stirrup, and was dragged to death by a frightened wild horse. After marrying for the inheritance, the heroine went on a honeymoon with her new husband's family, only to be pushed off a cliff. A newlywed woman was on her honeymoon, but her husband brought his whole family along, and the in-laws were wiped out by poisonous mushrooms. In just a few short days of vacation, we managed to scoop up all the holiday news. Looking out at the cloud banks outside the plane, white as snow, I smiled. It was so noisy on the way here. Finally, the trip back was peaceful. Get rid of this whole family of demons. Life ahead will still be bright and sunny. The end. Story 2. The new roommate is a cool and handsome guy. Just as I was relieved that the Yandere guy was finally out of my life, I heard his perverted inner thoughts. I really want to develop a special relationship with sister. Sister seems to hate me. I'm a bit sad, but it's okay. I can make her hate me if that's what it takes. Sister smells so good and feels so soft. When the green tea girl who was pursuing him said that I bullied her, on the surface, he looked indignant at evil, but in his heart, damn it, did she say thank you? When I was sleeping, from the next room, he thought, secret love is really hard. Even if I close my eyes and cover my mouth, it still shows me. When I found out that I was being targeted by the Yandere, he had already sent me countless harassing messages. After reporting it to the police several times with no result, my best friend suggested that I find someone to rent with first and move out when the lease expires, but the rental message had been posted for a week, and no one contacted me except that psycho. That pervert sent harassing messages every day without fail. Baby, why did you eat so little today? Is something bothering you? Baby, why were you talking to a man today? Is something bothering you? Baby, why aren't you ignoring me? Is something bothering you? Thankfully, he only dared to talk big. Otherwise, I might really go crazy knowing that the person on the other side just wanted to stir me up and get my attention. I just ignored him. Seeing that I didn't respond, he sent dozens of explicit photos in a row. He was constantly testing the limits of my patience. Finally, I broke down and cursed. You damned pervert, delete these. I don't have money to deal with you. We honest people don't look for trouble, but were also afraid of it. He had been harassing me for a while, and I had never talked to him, for fear of giving him what he wanted. The damned pervert on the other side finally stopped, just as I was thinking if I had somehow satisfied him with my scolding. The next second, an Alipay notification: 100,000 yuan transferred. Pure love can't satisfy me anymore, but pure gold can. I like boys who shine, like the god of wealth and Buddha. What could be more appealing to a working stiff like me? I apologized for my earlier offense. What kind of Yandere was he? He was clearly my good brother. Although I was tempted, with my high self-control I still returned the money intact. After all, compared to my life, this little money was nothing. However, I found that I had already been blocked. Just then, my best friend sent a video call. On the video, she looked extremely excited. Lua Lua, I have to tell you, I found you an amazing roommate. I nodded. Thanks for your trouble. My finger stopped when I scrolled to a photo of abs, and I frowned. Let's make it clear first, I'm not a pervert. I'm really not a pervert. I just wanted to study the human body structure. Seeing that I was distracted, my best friend's expression also became serious. Did that pervert send you messages again? Did he send you any inappropriate photos? I hesitated for a moment, but still sent them to her. The woman who was fierce just now immediately calmed down. Gucci on the video whistled. Her eyes lit up. Yo yo yo, it's pink. Accept it. If you get a pink-haired handsome guy, no, such a handsome guy, you must stick to him. Life is boring. I want a super hot pink-haired guy chasing me. Is it too late to be a fan of Leo Kuhn now? You're really starved for excitement, silly girl. Setting aside the fact that he's a pervert, he really is quite good looking. I never watch motivational videos, but he could be an actor. But rationally speaking, I can't let my guard down. Gucci was really reliable. Less than an hour after that phone call, the amazing roommate she found had already come to my door. I looked up at the tall and thin guy standing at the door, looking at me indifferently with his eyes downcast. He was wearing a black baseball cap and carrying a backpack diagonally. I was a bit confused. Handsome guy, who are you? He smiled at me. I'm the roommate your friend introduced. Looking at his stunningly handsome face, I was stunned for a moment. While he was entering the door, I secretly called my best friend. Why did you find me a male roommate? And he's so handsome. Didn't she know that I had no resistance to this kind of cool guy in a baseball cap? My best friend on the other end of the phone didn't think much of it. I was worried about your safety. Coincidentally, my cousin just got kicked out by his girlfriend and needs a place to live. He can take care of you when he's there. Don't worry. He's a black belt in Taekwondo. He can take down a small fry. With one punch, I took a deep breath. My mind was full of the handsome face of the man outside. I'm worried about his safety. He's so handsome. I'm afraid I can't control myself. My best friend laughed. Yuri's so shameless. He doesn't like girls. So many girls are chasing him, but I've never seen anyone succeed. Hearing this, I finally relaxed. He's handsome and doesn't like girls. Is there a more perfect doorman in the world? I originally thought his face was perfect enough, but I didn't expect his cooking to be perfect too. Although we didn't talk much, he prepared a rich dinner for me every day, every night after work. Looking at his handsome face, all the fatigue from being tortured by my boss during the day disappeared. As soon as I sat down, he handed me a pair of chopsticks. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing a section of fair skin. His knuckles were pink. My eyelids twitched, and I silently looked away. I took the chopsticks. I remembered Gucci's cousin was named Hani. I paused and then said awkwardly, Xiaoyi, thank you for helping me wash my clothes yesterday. I was so tired from working overtime last night that it was almost 10 o'clock when I got home. After taking a shower, I threw all my dirty clothes into the laundry basket. When I woke up in the morning, I found that the dirty clothes had been washed and hung on the balcony. Thinking about it, it could only be him who helped me. Although I knew he was my best friend's cousin, I still felt a bit embarrassed. He was taken aback. It's okay, I didn't have many classes yesterday, and seeing that you were so tired, I just did it for you. I mainly want to thank you for taking me in. My cheeks felt a bit hot. Thank you, but don't do it again next time. He suddenly seemed to realize something, and his ears turned bright red. He lowered his head and said softly, sorry, I won't do it again. I waved my hand, pretending not to care. I thought he was just cool, but I didn't expect him to be so innocent. Under that cool exterior, I have to say, ever since this cool little handsome guy moved in, that damned Yandere has never appeared in my sight again. Not even a harassing message. It's just a bit of a test of my self-control. Every night when I get home from work, he just walks around in front of me in nothing but a bath towel. Every time this happens, a domineering voice rings in my head. Do you like clean puppies? How about this freshly bathed single dog? Do you like it? Say something. It seems like he's seducing me. Not sure. Need to observe more. Who in their right mind prepares dinner for someone while wearing only a bath towel? I subconsciously swallowed my saliva, trying my best to move my eyes away from his chest. My mind can't stop thinking, why is everything about him pink? I'm too embarrassed to say anything or ask. I've been abiding by female virtues for over 20 years, and now I'm almost losing it. But all this is meaningless after all. We're like from different worlds. Enough. Wake up. His target audience is those white-socked sports students. Not a woman like me who's as independent as an eagle. I became a 9 to 5 working, stiff again, half asleep. I suddenly realized I was going to be late. I woke up with a start, but then I found out that there was still over an hour until my alarm went off. I felt so relieved. No one can understand the feeling of waking up and realizing you can still sleep for a long time. I went back to sleep contentedly. Vaguely, that low and hoarse voice came to my ears again. Just woke up. I really want to ask sister if she wants to be my girlfriend. My mind is so fuzzy. It would be easy to get her to agree. I really want to develop a special relationship with sister. Sister seems to hate me. She always avoids my gaze. I'm a bit sad, but it's okay. I can make her hate me. Sister smells so good and feels so soft. I really want to be sister's puppy. I turned over and couldn't help complaining that the soundproofing of this rental house was so bad. The neighbor's voice was so low, but I could still hear it. As a result, when I went out in the morning, I looked at the 70-year-old uncle next door in a strange way. Guys, someone please understand. I'm traumatized by the sister thing. On the subway during the morning rush hour, There were all kinds of strange smells, and the air was so stuffy that it was hard to breathe. I was huddled in Hanyi's arms, unable to move. My nose was filled with the smell of his sandalwood perfume. Hani propped his hand against the wall, afraid of squeezing me. I looked up at Hani and couldn't help thanking him. Xiaoyi, thank you so much, otherwise, I'd probably be scolded to death by my boss today. I was in such a hurry this morning that I left home without checking the work group. It was his call that made me realize I had forgotten to bring my documents. He lowered his head and smiled at me, just as he was about to say something. His body suddenly swayed. I was hugged tightly by him. He said sorry in a flustered voice, and his ears were so red that they seemed about to drip blood. I waved my hand, finding it funny, so innocent. I suddenly realized that by coming to the subway station to give me the documents, would he be too late to go back to school? He seemed to see what I was thinking and spoke first. It's okay, I got it for you on the way. It's no trouble. I nodded in understanding. My attention was completely drawn to his abs. Observing his strong muscle lines up close was even more wonderful. He looks tall and thin, but I didn't expect his body to be so good. My eyes couldn't help but glance at his waist and abdomen as he raised his hand. The muscles hidden under his clothes were faintly visible. The scorching breath from his body rushed to my nose. It almost made me lose my mind. Just looking at his waistline, I could tell he was really strong. It was not until he got off at his station that I let out a sigh of relief. He waved at me with a shy smile. Goodbye, sister. I was so charmed by this sister that my whole body went limp. Damn, so sweet. Before that, for a moment, I suspected that the voice I heard this morning was Hanyi's, but compared to that, his voice was much sweeter than that person's. To thank Hani, after work, I went to the supermarket and bought a lot of things he might like. I planned to cook a meal myself to thank him tonight. Unexpectedly, I happened to meet him on the way home. He was still dressed in black, with a black baseball cap on, but he seemed to be a bit flushed. His whole face was tinged with a faint red. A very beautiful girl was grabbing his clothes, her eyes red, and she wouldn't let go. This was probably a confession scene I was witnessing. I stopped in embarrassment. I originally planned to pretend not to see them. Unexpectedly, Hani called out to me as if he had seen a savior. Sister. He walked up to me in a few steps and took the big and small plastic bags in my hands. His eyes also started to turn red. Sister, why didn't you say hello when you saw me? Tears clung to his eyelashes, as if they were about to fall the next second. It seemed that he was bullied badly by that girl. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly turned my head, not daring to look at him. Looking at him any longer, I might go crazy. The beautiful girl also came up and tugged at Hanyi's clothes. Senior, have you been listening to me? Tomorrow, a university is holding a dance party. Please go with me, or I'll tell her what I accidentally found out. A university. Hearing this, I was a bit surprised. A university? Are you guys from a university too? The girl pressed herself against Hani, with a victorious smile on her lips. Of course, Auntie. Do you have something to do? Why are you holding on to my brother? What, Auntie? At this moment, I couldn't hear anything else. All I could hear in my ears was that Auntie. I subconsciously touched my face. No way. I graduated just 2 years ago, and have I been so worn out by society that a junior calls me Auntie? I forced a slightly embarrassed laugh. What a coincidence. I graduated from the same school as you. But the girl sneered, with an inexplicable hostility in her eyes. I know you. Hearing this, I immediately forgave her low EQ comment. In college, I was a loner and never interacted with anyone. It was not until my junior year that I met Gucci, the ultimate social butterfly. According to her, she thought I was like an NPC and was fun to play with. I never thought that someone as unremarkable as me would be recognized by a junior. I felt warm in my heart for a moment. However, what the junior said next sent me to the depths of an ice cellar. Aren't you the one who bullied me? What the hell? No, girl, this is really a huge false accusation. I was just about to ask her to clarify when the junior rolled her eyes at me and turned her back, not wanting to look at me. She accused Hani. Why did you call her sister just now? Don't you know she bullied me before? I found it a bit funny and crossed my arms, quietly watching her act. The smile on Hanyi's face froze, and his expression became a bit strange, but his tone was still gentle. Sister bullied you? No, that's impossible. How did she bully you? She slapped me and stepped on me with her feet. After hearing this, Hanyi's face turned a bit ugly, and he gave me an ambiguous look. I felt creepy being looked at like this, afraid that he might misunderstand. I was about to explain, but then I heard that cold inner voice again. Damn it, did she say thank you? I'm so sad. Why did sister reward her? What? I subconsciously glanced at Hani, and he had a righteous look on his face. I don't believe that sister would do such a thing. Please don't slander people casually. Of course, if sister really did such a thing, I won't forgive her either. I looked around but didn't see the old neighbor man. I couldn't help but fall silent. Could it really be Hani? The moment this guess popped up in my mind, I immediately rejected it. No, it's impossible, honey. Doesn't seem that perverted. Did I hear it wrong? Not sure, need to listen more. However, that voice didn't appear again. The next second, the old neighbor man led his wife past in front of us. I couldn't hold it in. God, do you have something on your mind? Why make me hear the old man's inner thoughts? Are you not satisfied with how the world already is? I let out a long sigh of resentment and saw that Hani had already the girl's hand. He frowned and took several steps back. So, can you leave now? Your stalking behavior is really scary. If you continue like this, I'll call the police. The girl didn't expect Hani to say that. Her face instantly turned red with shame and anger, and she ran away. Before leaving, she gave me a fierce glare. Hani's long eyelashes trembled uneasily, and he looked at me a bit nervously. Sorry, I made you laugh. I waved my hand indifferently. I was indignant about him being stalked by the girl. All stalkers in this world deserve to die. Then I heard him ask me curiously, has sister also experienced something bad? I sneered, he's a pervert. On the way home, Hani listened to me complaining a lot about that Yandere guy. Our relationship became much closer instantly. However, the atmosphere became a bit awkward after I received a call from home. Hani looked up, his face still slightly red. Sister, why do you look so bad? Is there some trouble? I slumped on the sofa, feeling tired. It's nothing, my family wants me to go on a blind date. The smile that had been on Hani's face froze. A blind date? If sister doesn't want to go, you can find an excuse to decline. I sighed and shook my head helplessly. My mom has already made the decision for me and even booked a restaurant. She said if I don't go, I'm not allowed to go home for the new year. Hani was taken aback and stood silently at the entrance without speaking. I felt a bit apologetic. I probably won't be able to have dinner with you tomorrow. We had just agreed that I would accompany him to the dance tomorrow, but then this blind date came up. A hint of sadness flashed across his face, but he quickly shook his head. It's okay, sister's business is more important. I was almost moved to tears. Hani is such a nice guy. The blind date partner was a finance guy. In just a few minutes, he had looked at his Cartier watch more than 10 times. His patronizing remarks made me extremely uncomfortable. Women should be cherished. I think you can get to know me on a deeper level. I think you're quite pretty. Leave me your contact information later. Also, I'd like to give a little suggestion. Please put on some makeup before meeting me next time. It's basic courtesy between people who can understand. I felt harassed. I really wanted to give him some of my self-esteem. I couldn't help but look down at my phone. I found that there were more than 20 unread messages. They were messages sent by that damned pervert 10 minutes ago. Baby, have I ever told you not to anger me? Why are you having dinner with a strange man? What are you talking about? Why are you laughing so happily? Isn't it nice to stay at home obediently? I know there's another man in your house. If I don't see you home before I get to your place, guess what will happen? I didn't know. I didn't dare to know either. I only knew that what this damned pervert said didn't seem like a joke. I didn't dare to take the risk. Without having time to say sorry to the man across from me, I rushed out of the restaurant. I ran home as fast as I could, but when I got to the door, I hesitated. My heart suddenly tightened, and my face turned deathly pale. I was too scared to speak. I was afraid of what I might see when I opened the door. My hands were shaking as I tried to unlock the door, but the door was opened from the inside. Seeing Hani standing in front of me safe and sound, the tense nerves in my body finally relaxed. I grabbed his arm, gasping for breath. Are you okay? He lowered his eyes and stared at me expressionlessly. I was slightly stunned. Hani seemed so strange. I couldn't read the expression on his face, and his voice was a bit cold. Is sister afraid that something might happen to me? It's strange. I was staying at home peacefully. How could something happen? Why would sister say that? Did someone tell you something? I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but his voice now was exactly the same as the inner thoughts I heard a few days ago. I stared at him blankly. He raised his hand to block his cold gaze, and his tone returned to its usual gentleness. He seemed a bit apologetic. Sorry, sister, I'm just a little sad. A hint of confusion flashed in my eyes. I felt really strange, sad that sister would rather have dinner with a blind date partner than with me. After hearing this, I forced a smile. So that's it. He was just angry that I didn't accompany him tonight. But was that really the case? After returning to my room, I tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. Hani just now made me feel extremely uncomfortable for some reason, but I couldn't exactly tell what was wrong with him. While I was lost in thought, Gucci suddenly sent me a message. Chinluo, do you never want to talk to me again in this lifetime? It should be 9 o'clock in the morning on Gucci's side. Today is the weekend. Usually, she should still be sleeping at this time. I sent a message to tease her. It's a rare sight. Miss Gu is up so early today. Gu. She was almost angered into laughter. It's all because you ignored me. I was so sad that I didn't sleep all night. I ignored you. I was very confused. When did I ignore you? Gucci sent me a screenshot of our chat. On the screenshot, she sent a lot of sorry emojis. At first, I was a bit puzzled, but when I saw the following words, my eyes widened in shock. I almost dropped my phone. Luo. I'm really sorry. I just found out that my damned lovesick cousin didn't go to see you at all yesterday. I've given him a good scolding. Don't worry. This time, I will definitely find you a reliable roommate to rent with. Damn it. Why didn't I see this message? I went through the chat history and was very certain that there was no such message in my phone. Woo. You haven't replied to my messages for several days. I was worried that something had happened to you. I almost flew back to the country several times. I was relieved only after my cousin went to your workplace and saw that you were safe. Knowing that you just didn't want to reply to me on purpose makes me want to cry even more. Gucci said that I hadn't replied to her messages since that day. I couldn't help but be suspicious. How could that be? Since Gucci went abroad to study, we gradually had less contact because of the time difference, but as long as I saw her messages, I definitely wouldn't not reply, and I definitely wouldn't delete the chat history. The only possibility was that someone had secretly deleted my chat history. I couldn't help but feel a chill down my spine. My hands were shaking as I sent a message to Gu. Chi baby, can you screenshot all the messages you sent me these days? Soon, Gucci sent more than 20 pages of chat screenshots. In these more than 20 pages of screenshots, I didn't reply to any of them. Calculating the time, Gucci sent messages mostly in the afternoon after 1 or 2 o'clock, and it was already early morning on my side. Generally, I would reply to Gucci's messages after getting up the next day, but I hadn't replied to any of her messages for a whole week. Gucci even said that I had blocked her phone number. I checked the blacklist. Sure enough, as she said, I had blocked Gucci. That means that during the time I was sleeping, someone secretly deleted my chat history with Gucci and blocked her phone number, and the only person I could suspect was Hani, who was currently living under the same roof with me. I had a bad feeling. With a solemn expression, I confirmed the fact again. You mean Hani didn't come to my place to find me at all? Gucci seemed a bit guilty that day. He was about to leave with his suitcase when his girlfriend caught him and dragged him back. So, Hani didn't come to find me. So, who is my current roommate? I suddenly realized that I always put my documents on the small table in my bedroom. How could Hani frequently notice that I forgot to take them? A university and my company are not on the way either. I had a terrifying guess. Maybe Hani was Dash, that Yandere who had been following me all the time. I remembered that day when he brought me the documents. I hadn't even had time to send him my real-time location. Hani quickly and accurately found the location where I was at that time. I was very surprised. He told me it was a telepathic connection. Now that I think about it, I have a bad premonition. Before going to bed, I deleted my chat history with Gucci. The next day, I specially took a day off and went to a university. After asking around, I found the girl who had pestered Hani last time. She leaned against the door and sneered, I've given you all the photos. If I hear even a single rumor about me from others, I won't let you go. Hani appeared quite frequently in the photos. Indeed, as he said, the girl was stalking him. However, to my surprise, in every photo where he appeared, I was also in the picture. Before I left, the girl smiled at me mockingly. Senior, it seems you've been targeted by a pervert. My vision went dark, and I felt a sudden difficulty in breathing. I knew that he might be following me silently behind my back at this moment. Or maybe he was at home, sniffing my clothes, but I had more important things to do now. I started to investigate all his information. He was handsome and rich. He won scholarships easily. He was a popular figure on campus but very cold. He moved out of the dormitory as early as his freshman year and lived in an apartment bought by his family. However, this rich, handsome, and talented male god was willing to squeeze into an 80 square meter rental house with me. He even took the time to prepare dinner for me and keep the house spotless. I wouldn't believe it if he had no ulterior motives. I couldn't help but shiver, forcibly suppressing my fear. I found a nearby mobile phone repair shop. The result was that there was indeed a positioning software. Looking at the messy, coded file in the system folder, I felt a sense of nausea. The store manager asked me if I wanted to uninstall it. I shook my head with a solemn expression to confirm if the person who downloaded the software was Hani. I took a taxi to the nearest hotel. Sitting on the big bed in the suite, I thought a lot. I thought that if it was really Hani, I must scold him severely and then kick him out of my house. But when Hani really appeared in front of me, I suddenly felt a sense of panic for no reason. But soon, anger replaced fear. I couldn't help but reach out and slap him in the face. Hani was slapped to the side. There was a moment of confusion on his face, but soon he licked his lips and stared at me affectionately. He was so excited that his body was shaking, and his eyes were filled with lingering smiles, but the words he said made my hair stand on end. Do you want him to die? tell me who that bastard inside is. I was so angry that my whole body was shaking. Who the hell are you? Are you the pervert who has been pestering me all this time? His body trembled, his eyes suddenly lit up. He held my hand and kissed my palm again and again. So sister has found out. After that day, he completely stopped pretending. He threatened me with Gucci, not allowing me to escape, not allowing me to leave his sight. At first, I didn't believe him and always secretly did some small things, but Gucci told me that there had been robberies and shootings near her recently. I comforted her to lock the doors and windows at night and come back to the country if necessary. I suddenly realized that Sui wasn't joking. My mind was full of the excited look on his face that day. At that time, I was blinded by anger, and in that moment of confusion, he confessed his love to me. He said his name was Sui, and he had noticed me a long time ago. At first, he saw that I was targeted by bully guy and wanted to protect me, so he followed me every day. But later, his purpose gradually became impure. He started to want to know what I ate every day and who I talked to. He said, "The day I realized you wanted to get rid of me, my heart hurt so much that I almost wanted to die. But when I saw that you couldn't find a roommate to rent with, you have no idea how excited I was. I miss you so much that I'm almost going crazy." Although he pretends to be normal, he would prepare the documents I need for the day and put them beside my pillow before leaving in the morning. He would also fold the clothes I'm going to wear and place them next to me, and he would attentively prepare every meal for me. But inside, he's already rotten. Every morning when I wake up, I can smell the sandalwood fragrance of his on the quilt. Thinking of this, I angrily knocked the chopsticks he handed me to the ground, but he just chuckled and affectionately kissed my face. It seems that every emotion I show towards him makes him extremely pleased. Closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and went back to my room. I have nothing in common with a pervert. Sui realized that I stopped communicating with him. He started to frequently seduce me with his body. Every day, I could see him walking around in front of me shirtless, trying all kinds of ways to cook various dishes for me. But I remained unmoved. Finally, after a week of Cold War, he became docile. He started to reduce the chances of meeting me. Only at night when we slept would he carefully hug me. Recently, I noticed that Sui often held a small box with a strange expression, which caught my attention. After he left, I found a box with a combination lock in his room. I tried entering Sui's birthday and mine, but neither worked. When I entered the date when Sui first moved into my house, the box unexpectedly opened. The moment it opened, my face turned red with anger. Inside were the clothes I had accidentally lost these days. The sheer fabric made me blush with embarrassment. I kind of wanted to go crazy at him, but I was also afraid of pleasing him. I was so angry that my teeth were itching. I pulled out the clothes, and at the bottom of the box, I found a notebook. The first few pages were nothing special, just filled with my name. It was not until I turned a few more pages that I gradually realized something was wrong. The notebook recorded every day after we met, and each page was accompanied by a photo of my back. There's a strange woman who has been following me recently. When I look in her direction, she would pretend not to notice and walk past me as if nothing had happened. Is she stalking me? She gradually piqued my curiosity. Every day, I would turn my head to see if my tail was following me. This state only lasted for half a year. That day, as usual, I slowed down and deliberately went to the place where she usually appeared, but to my disappointment, she was gone. My little tail didn't follow me anymore. She no longer appeared in my sight. I met that strange woman again a week later. She's really stupid. She didn't even notice that someone was following her. If I hadn't been there, those hooligans might have eaten her alive. It turns out she's a senior 2 years older than me. I've written her name on paper countless times, and her photo has been dirted by me again and again. The way she eats is like a guinea pig. Her bulging cheeks make me want to take a bite. There's also a strange woman beside her. They huddled together, not knowing what they were talking about, and laughing happily. So the reason she didn't show up was because of this woman named Gucci. I started to feel a bit jealous of her. Her gaze, her emotions, everything about her should only belong to me. I was insanely jealous every day. Fortunately, that woman went abroad to study, and she was alone again. It should be like this, only I should be by her side, seeing her busy and tired from work, with fatigue showing in her eyes. I couldn't help but feel a bit heartbroken. This kind of peaceful yet interesting life lasted for a long time. I never felt bored. Every time, I could discover more interesting things about her. Like now, it seems she's noticed me. She started to frequently shake me off and deliberately go to crowded places. At first, this move of hers made me heartbroken, but later, I somehow found it interesting. I could feel her fearful eyes, scared tears, and trembling breaths behind the door. It all made my heart tremble. It's so beautiful, her breakdown, her trembling, her fear, all her emotions were because of me. I was so excited that I couldn't sleep every night. I really wanted to kiss her, and also really wanted to. I couldn't bear to read any further at this point. My face was completely red, and I tried my best to control the heaving of my chest. I closed the notebook with a snap. Sui is really a lunatic. I quietly put it back, smoothed the wrinkles on his bedsheet, and made sure there was no trace of me left in the whole room before leaving with relief. Since Suyi's true identity was revealed, he would hand me a glass of milk every night. He said it was good for sleep. At first, I was cautious and never drank it, but later, I gradually let down my guard. Every time he handed me the milk, I would drink it all up. Today was no exception, but today, the milk tasted strange. It was a bit bitter. I don't know what Sui put in it for me. I started to feel my eyelids getting heavy, and my body stiffened, unable to move at all. I couldn't help but want to sleep. I realized that there might be something bad added to the milk. I quickly ran back to my room and locked the door. Then I closed my heavy eyelids with relief. I didn't sleep soundly. My mind was full of his ferocious and distorted face. I was so scared by this image that I was wide awake. I don't know how long it passed, but my mood became a bit impatient. I couldn't help but take out my phone to look at the text message he sent me not long ago. Only then did I relax my tense nerves and chuckle. He threatened me not to escape, not to leave his sight, but he seemed not to know. I don't want to escape at all. How could I easily let go of the little fish I caught myself? Of course, I know every little move he makes behind my back. Long before moving in here, I installed cameras in every corner of this room. Every night, his uncontrollable affection was fully captured by me. The tears he couldn't help shedding when he was deeply in love made his beautiful face even more attractive. So cute. He thought he was hiding well. Little did he know that he had already fallen into the tight net I set up for him. This is the best located house near the company. How could I not find a roommate to rent with? And there's no such thing as mind reading. It's just that I could read the dark thoughts from his expressionless face. As for those hooligans, they were just means to attract him. Gucci once asked me what I would do if he didn't take the bait. I only remember saying that if I love someone, I would lock him up, feed him through the small hole in the door until he falls in love with me. Locked up, he would be mine. Even if he's not mine, at least he can't be someone else's. Fortunately, he's mine. I'm twisted. I like the feeling of being monitored by him. I need his constant attention. Passionate, crazy, and extremely painful love gives me a sense of security. I admit that I'm also a lunatic. Extreme possessiveness can make me feel loved. He's so innocent. How could I let go of someone as innocent as him? The familiar sound of footsteps came from outside the door again. I knew he was coming. I put away the phone through which I was spying on him and closed my eyes to pretend to be asleep. I felt him lying down beside me and hugging me. My heart was pounding with excitement. So cute. When I found out that I was targeted by a Yandere, she's been working very hard recently. I felt heartbroken seeing her like this. I secretly put a nutritional tablet in her milk, but it seems she thought too much. The expression on her face when she deliberately pretended not to notice is really cute. Since she likes it, it wouldn't hurt to play along with her. I pressed off the phone screen she accidentally forgot to turn off. I couldn't help but increase the strength in my hand. Feeling her restrained and trembling under my hand, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. My heart is beating so fast. Are you excited, baby?